Chapter 1758. Help me take care of Wen Xiao. I'm going out for a while. Su Yin stood up and said to Yu Marin. Other than Yu Marin, no one else would stay to help take care of Wen Xiao. Because they still didn't know what had happened last night, Su Yin didn't dare to leave Wen Xiao alone in the ward. Once Su Yin said that he was leaving, the others couldn't sit still. Mo Wentian hadn't been to other places since he came to the Guqin Island. He was already feeling uncomfortable. Now that Su Yin had almost recovered, he only needed time. There was no need for him to do anything else. Mo Wentian couldn't stay any longer and said, "Then I'll go out to do something." "What can you do in the Guqin Island?" Zhuolengyue said disapprovingly. "I'm the one who brought you here. Since you can't stay here any longer, I'll get someone to send you back. Don't let others say that I, Zhuolengyue, am a person who destroys the bridge after crossing the river and kills the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. I don't want to bear such a reputation." Mo Wentian frowned. Ungrateful? Why did it sound like she was scolding him? "But I don't want to go back now. I haven't been out for so many years. After coming out for a few days, I really don't want to live in seclusion anymore. Why don't you introduce me to some Yanjing University to teach? Do you really think Yanjing University is a technical school? If you want to teach, go ahead." Zhuolengyue was speechless. "If you don't want to go back, then I can't do anything about it. But I don't have so much time to care about you. I won't wait for you when you want to go." At this moment, Bai Xiaoye took out a card from her purse and handed it to Mo Wentian with both hands. Mo Wentian had contributed a lot to Su Yin's recovery. Of course, she couldn't be like her mother and not give him face. Although she couldn't thank him with words, she couldn't leave out some basic things. Mo Wentian looked at the card that Bai Xiaoye handed over and was slightly stunned. However, he didn't reach out to take it. Instead, he glanced at Zhuolengyue. He was afraid that if he took the card, he would be reprimanded by Zhuolengyue again. That wouldn't be worth it. He couldn't be reprimanded just because of some money. "This is a small token of my appreciation," Bai Xiaoye said. "Uncle Mo, this is a high-limit overdraft card. You'll definitely need to spend money on Qingdao, and this card is for you to use. It's more convenient than cash. All the expenses will be on me." Seeing that Zhuolengyue had no intention of objecting, Mo Wen reached out to take the gift from Bai Xiaoye. Of course, this was a good gift. Xiaoye is so sensible. Although Bai Xiaoye was Su Chen's daughter, Mo Wentian didn't have any intention of targeting her. Instead, he doted on her. Perhaps it was because he loved her, but she was also Zhuolengyue's daughter. He was no longer the hot-blooded young man he used to be. Now that he was middle-aged, there were many things that he didn't care about. To Mo Wentian, those memories of the past could only be treated as precious memories. Weren't those memories the wealth of life? However, later on, Mo Wentian didn't bring a single cent with him. When he took the card to the roadside to buy roasted sweet potatoes and roasted corn, he said that he wanted to use the card. He was almost scolded and shouted that he shouldn't pretend to be a rich second generation if he didn't have money. This was something that Mo Wentian could not understand. Why was it possible to swipe this card in the shopping mall, but not at the roadside roasting sweet potatoes and roasted corn? After everyone left, Wen Xiao made a request to Yu Marin. "I want to leave. Can you take me away? I don't want to see my boss having a headache over my matters. I'm a cripple, and this matter is already set in stone. Nothing is absolute in this world." Yu Marin shook her head. "I'm begging you. Take me away. I don't want to implicate him." Wen Zhao's expression looked a little pained. "If there's another chance, I will definitely repay you. Please help me." Yu Marin was in a difficult position. "Impossible. Even if I want to help you, even if I don't want Su Yin to have a headache over your matters, it's impossible for me to take you away. You are still under police surveillance. No matter whether you can recover in the end, we need to get the approval of a team before we have the authority to take you away from the police. There are police officers watching at the door now. How do you want me to take you away?" Wen Xiao shook his head. "I know. With your ability, dealing with 2 police officers isn't a problem. I'm begging you. Impossible. Assaulting the police is a criminal act." Yu Marin said very seriously. Wen Xiao, I hope that no matter what happens in the future, you will consider one problem. A person's power can't be used to be lawless and do whatever he wants. Even if it's because Su Yin has done so much for you. You should change your mind, right? Wen Xiao was startled. He understood that Yu Marin's words were right. Su Yin had done so much for him. If he still didn't repent, how could he face Su Yin? I'm a useless person. I'm not afraid. But I'm afraid of implicating him to continue working hard for me. I don't want him to be like this anymore. Wen Xiao said. I don't want to see him rushing about for some illusory matter. I don't want to see him working hard for my matters. Wen Xiao calmed down. If Su Yin is willing to do it, then this matter might not be illusory. I know him. You know him too. We all know him. Yu Marin said. Give him some time, okay? Wen Xiao could only smile bitterly. Zixahoya people, Paboyu. What was the difference between this and asking Su Yin to obtain the dragon's gallbladder and dragon's blood? Miracles exist in this world. You should try to believe in the existence of miracles. Yu Marin didn't dare to easily reveal the truth of some matters. After all, Wen Xiao still didn't have her full trust. What you need to do is wait. Don't let everything Su Yin has done go to waste. No one knew that under Wen Xiao's bed, there was a patch-type eavesdropping device. This was a high-level spy device that could resist all kinds of electronic interference. It could transmit an unlimited distance of up to 500 to 600 meters. Don't underestimate this distance. In espionage activities, this distance was already quite powerful. After all, this eavesdropping device looked like a very ordinary transparent tape. If one didn't look very carefully, it would be quite difficult to detect. The eavesdropper was naturally Vulture, who had appeared in Wen Xiao's ward yesterday. Vulture didn't expect the other party to discover his existence so quickly. However, he wasn't afraid. Although they knew that someone had appeared in the ward, they didn't have any leads to investigate him. In other words, Vulture was now in a very dark place. It was impossible for him to be discovered. They were a chess game on the surface. Vulture could join the battle at any time and kill the other party when they were unprepared. Vulture was in a very good mood when he received this news today. Zixahoya people, Paboyu, these things were already old legends in the underground world. How could they be found? Wen Xiao could only be a cripple for the rest of his life. To Vulture, this was wonderful. He wanted to let Wen Xiao suffer all kinds of torture, then torture him bit by bit until he died. But before that, he had to let him live as a cripple. Otherwise, killing a person who wanted to die wouldn't make him feel any pain. One could only imagine how deep Vulture's hatred for Wen Xiao was for him to be so meticulous in torturing Wen Xiao. It was simply an unreasonable hatred. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as deranged. For Wen Xiao to provoke such a person, it must be God's revenge on him. As the saying goes, evil has its retribution. All the punishment that Wen Xiao received today might really be God's retribution for him. Chapter 1759. This is the biggest joke in the world. Using Pobo Jade that the Zixahoya people have worn for more than 3 years to restore the original strength of their heart meridians. Vulture sneered in the hotel. This did not sound like a fantasy story. After all, the stories of the Zixahoya people were not groundless. They were all real. Vulture naturally believed Mo Tianwen's diagnosis when faced with such a situation. However, this diagnosis was just a blank check. No matter how beautiful it was meaningless and could not become reality. Even if some people were very powerful and had the ability to reach the heavens, they would definitely not be able to do something that truly existed. This kind of awkwardness did not exist in life. For example, in the huge Yanjing city, a rich second generation and an official second generation were showing off their abilities in front of a group of green TB asterisk cheese at a KTV. The rich second generation threw down a wine list and said, "What do you want to drink? As long as it's on the list, I can afford it." This kind of pretentiousness was indeed true. If it was on the wine list, it would definitely be in this shop. The official second generation was unhappy. How could he leave him alone in this pretentious matter? His father was a great leader who could cover the sky with one hand. The official second generation definitely could not let the girls look down on him. He pointed at the song ordering computer and said, "Order a song. Just order a song from the song list. As long as the singer is in Beijing, I can call him here to perform in person." This tone of his was too silly. However, the rich second generation believed that with the power of this official second generation's family, it could definitely be done. This could all be done with just a word from his father. However, one of the green TB asterisk cheese could not stand it. She flipped open the song list and directly ordered, "In the Field of Hope." The entire room fell silent. This was called something that clearly existed, but could not be done no matter how capable you were. Vulture felt that the situation Wen Xiao was facing was similar to what was described in the story above. The Zixahoya people existed, right? Existed. Pobo Jade existed, right? Existed. But who could get it? Even if there were people in this world who knew about this matter, they would definitely cover it up and not tell anyone. This was enough to cause a great upheaval in the entire world. Beside Vulture stood a man in his 30s. His hair was dark red, so the mercenaries called him Red Eagle. Red Eagle was Vulture's right-hand man. For so many years, whether it was when Vulture was famous and arrogant, or when Vulture's reputation was ruined, and he went to fight in the Middle East, the Red Hawk had stayed by Vulture's side. It could be said that without the Red Hawk, there would be no Vulture today. Therefore, Vulture never treated Red Hawk as a subordinate. Red Hawk was like a brother to him. There were many things that he entrusted to Red Hawk, and Red Hawk would handle them properly for him. "Brother, what do you think about this?" Vulture felt the need to ask for Red Hawk's opinion. After all, Red Hawk had been with him for so many years and was definitely reliable. Red Eagle frowned. "Paboyu. Indeed, if this is the only path that One-Eyed can take, then he is basically incurable. But if you have something to say, just say it," Vulture said. "There's nothing to worry about between us. I trust your observation skills." "I think that those people are not simple people," Red Hawk said. "If they really have a way to find the Zikijoa people who have Paboyu, then wouldn't that be giving One-Eyed a chance? Why don't I make the first move and let One-Eyed die? This way, there won't be any changes." The corner of Vulture's mouth raised into a sinister smile. "You think there's hope in such a ridiculous thing?" Red Hawk nodded. That's right, he believed that there was nothing absolute in the world. Before a matter was over, all kinds of variables existed. Even if they found the Zikijoa people and Paboyu, Red Hawk still believed that it was possible. Perhaps no one would think that it was a big deal. But from another point of view, even if that was the case, the rich second generation of the KTV still believed that the rich second generation could invite the singer who sang, "On the Field of Hope" to the scene. If one understood it this way, would they think that the rich second generation was especially stupid? To the point of being ridiculously stupid? Red Hawk was such a person. Vulture smiled. He knew Red Hawk's character. He would only believe that Wen Xiao could not be saved if he personally confirmed that Wen Xiao was dead. "Since you think there's still hope, then all the more we won't wait." Vulture's face actually revealed a smile. "If we're really lucky enough to see the Zikijoa people and Paboyu, then our trip to Huaxia this time will be really profitable." Red Hawk's eyes also lit up. He naturally understood what Vulture meant. Indeed, if these people could really find a Zikijoa person for Wen Xiao, then why couldn't they just sit back and reap the benefits? The value of a Zikijoa person in the underground world, this could not be measured by money. Obtaining a Zikijoa person meant that they would have the opportunity to obtain the supreme power of the world. This was why in this world, even if someone knew the whereabouts of a Zikijoa person, the news would never spread, because those who knew of this news would want to completely take the spoils for themselves. Previously, those people that Su Yin had met who knew of Guogua's identity kept this secret in their hearts until their deaths. Even if they were beaten to death, they would never reveal it to the outside world. This clearly showed the importance of this secret to these people. This was also the reason why Su Yin did not show the slightest bit of joy when he heard Mo Wen Tian mention this solution. Because this was definitely a secret that could not be made public. Huaxia has always been mysterious. In this country, anything can happen and anyone can exist. Red Hawk also nodded. From the era of the legendary Yellow Emperor until now, Huaxia has already had a history of 5,000 years. Anything that can't exist in other places can exist in Huaxia. Anything that can't happen in other places can happen in Huaxia. Then we will look forward to the appearance of a Zikijoa person. Vulture seemed to have sensed his own power. If he could really obtain a Zikijoa person, then he would definitely turn his armed mercenary force into the strongest mercenary group in the world. Whether it was the Wolf Fang mercenary group, or the Black Tiger mercenary group, they would all submit to him. This kind of fantasy could really turn a person into a demon. Although it was just Red Hawk's theory, Vulture seemed to desire the appearance of a Zikijoa person more than Wen Xiao. He wanted to obtain the world's most unique and fastest-growing power. No. If that was the case, why would he still be a mercenary group? He might as well directly occupy a country. He wanted to raise his blade and immediately enter Tokyo. He wanted to directly seize the most fertile Japanese islands in the eastern part of the Asian continent. With the Japanese islands as the base, he would occupy the entire Pacific Ocean in one go. He wanted to see if even the American government would tremble and bow before him when he possessed the world's strongest mercenary group. Perhaps a Zikijoa person could help him, Vulture, conquer the world. This whimsical idea continuously corroded Vulture's heart. Fortunately, Red Hawk was calm enough. This matter is still an extremely subtle possibility. Let's not sink too deep. Vulture finally regained his senses and nodded. Yes, that's right. We can't sink too deep. In Huaxia's words, this matter hasn't even been glimpsed yet. This wasn't just haven't even been glimpsed. It was simply haven't even been glimpsed. However, this didn't affect Vulture's mood. He was very clear that he was in the dark, and no one could find him. He had enough time and patience to wait. Chapter 1760. Mo Wen Tian's words made Su Yin feel very conflicted. He knew how troublesome and important this matter was. This was not only related to the inevitable troubles, but also related to Guogua's safety. This was what Su Yin was most worried about, and also the reason why he didn't dare to take the risk. Ever since Guogua had decided to join the Dragon Brigade, Su Yin knew that although she was young, she had her own independent thoughts. She had her own autonomy in many matters because she had her own vision and plans for the future. Perhaps this couldn't be the final outcome, but it was a manifestation of her maturity and wisdom. Nowadays, there were many parasites in their 30s who still didn't have such maturity and wisdom. They didn't have their own vision and plans for the future. Compared to those people, she really couldn't be viewed as a child. She had her own thoughts, awareness, and her own opinions. Su Yin suddenly realized that there was no point in him thinking too much. Even if he wanted Guogua to stand out and help Wen Xiao, if Guogua didn't want to, he couldn't force her. Guogua wasn't his personal property. She had the right to make her own decisions. Yes, that's right. The final decision for this matter shouldn't be in Su Yin's hands. Su Yin hadn't thought of this point just now. He couldn't be so selfish as to decide Guogua's matters. Because of this thought, Su Yin's heart seemed to relax, but also seemed to be more conflicted. Let Guogua make her own decisions? What kind of answer would that be? Su Yin really couldn't judge. Would Guogua struggle more than him? This was a problem that even he didn't want to face, so how could he let a child handle it? Phew. Su Yin let out a long sigh. Perhaps this was something that one had to face in order to grow up. In the path of life's growth, everyone would face all kinds of countless choices. Some of these choices were simple, some were complicated, and some made one at a loss. The more difficult a choice was to make, the more it could determine one's life's direction. Every time a person made a difficult choice, they would become more mature, more rational, and more appreciative. Therefore, Su Yin still decided to let Guogua make her own choice, a choice that belonged to her. If Guogua was unwilling to take such a big risk to help someone who had nothing to do with her, then Su Yin had nothing to say. He could only say that this was what Wen Xiao deserved, and there was nothing unacceptable about it. If Guogua was willing to help, then it was Wen Xiao's good fortune to be able to meet the benefactor of his life when he was at the bottom of his despair. Su Yin called Guogua and brought Ruan Qingshuang and Chou Yan to his room. In this room, other than himself, the other two women were the most important people in Guogua's life. Su-yin hoped that Guogua could consider their thoughts, so that her decision would be more comprehensive. Guogua was a little puzzled. Dad, why are you being so secretive? Don't tell me you're being pestered by a beautiful auntie. I'll say this first. Don't let us children get involved in this kind of thing. It will affect our physical and mental health development. Su-yin knew that Guogua saw that he was in a heavy mood, so she joked with him. In fact, she knew that he must have something important to tell her. If that's the case, I don't have to be so difficult. Su-yin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Guogua, now there are only 4 of us here. I have something that I want you to judge by yourself. Of course, this matter is very important. You need to think about it carefully. Guogua stuck out her tongue. Don't say it's so scary. It makes me feel like I'm going to be married off so early. Dad, if you have something to tell me, why are you hesitating? Just say it. Don't keep me guessing. I'm so curious. Ruan Qingshuang and Cho Yun were also very curious now. Su-yin was a little abnormal after coming back from the hospital. Because they didn't go to the hospital with Su-yin, they didn't know what happened. Now that Su-yin called them to the room, it was obviously very important. Yes, just say it. We're all anxious. Ruan Qingshuang said. How's the situation in the hospital? Is that person's condition okay? Why is he suddenly looking for Guogua? Cho Yun frowned. She seemed to have an ominous premonition. Su-yin didn't hide it anymore. Mo Wen-tian diagnosed Wen Zhao's condition. If you want Wen Zhao to recover from being a cripple, there's only one way. What way? Cho Yun was the first to ask. He needs a piece of Pobo jade that the Zixahoya people wear for 3 years to warm his mind. Only then can Wen Zhao not become a cripple. Su-yin was almost gritting his teeth as he said this. This risk and this price was really something that even he couldn't bear. Guogua was a smart child. She immediately understood Su-yun's meaning. She nodded and said, Dad, you want to use that piece of Pobo jade on me to save him, right? Su-yin didn't know how to answer at this moment. He couldn't face this question. Absolutely not. Cho Yun didn't wait for Su-yin to speak. She said resolutely and decisively, Su-yin, you should be very clear about what this means. If the Pobo jade appears, everyone will know that you, Su-yin, have a Zixahoya person by your side. Let's not talk about whether Guogua's identity can be kept a secret. Even if you can hide Guogua in the Dragon Brigade, the troubles around you will be endless. Su-yin lowered his head. He knew everything that Cho Yun said. He was very clear about it. It was indeed so. He wasn't afraid that trouble would provoke him. However, he was really afraid that Guogua's identity couldn't be kept. If Guogua got into trouble because of this, Su-yin would never be able to forgive himself in this lifetime. Although Ruan Qingshuang didn't have a deep understanding of the stakes involved, they had lived together for so long. She also knew what this meant. Therefore, she still supported Cho Yun. No matter what, it was best not to bring danger to Guogua and trouble to Su-yin. That was the best choice. Cho Yun was a little emotional because she and Guogua had just gotten used to life without the pressure of life-threatening danger. If that kind of danger came again, she really didn't know if she could hold on. Su-yin, you have to know that no matter how good your relationship with that person is, he has no relationship with you. But Guogua has nothing to do with him. Guogua has no obligation to help him. Cho Yun said, that person is someone we hate. If it weren't for him, you wouldn't have almost died in that bomb shelter. Cho Yun wanted to express something very straightforward. She was absolutely against this matter. Guogua didn't speak. She could see that Cho Yun was very emotional. She could also understand why she was so emotional. On the other side, Ruan Qingshuang also stood up to comfort Cho Yun. No matter what, we won't let Guogua be in danger. I believe that Su-yin knows this better than we do. Cho Yun shook her head. If he really knew this, he wouldn't have called us to this room. Su-yin, I know you are also struggling. You love Guogua, but you don't want to abandon your brother who has been through life and death with you. I understand you, but I absolutely won't allow you to decide this matter. Su-yin lowered his head and said, Yes, I admit that I don't know how to choose. But I called Guogua here today, because I don't want to make a decision for Guogua. I also don't want Guogua to be exposed to danger. That's why I called you here. Guogua nodded. I understand, Dad. You want me to make a choice for myself, right? Chapter 1761. Cho Yun warned Guogwa very seriously. Guogwa, I know you have grown up and you want to be able to make your own decisions. But there is one thing that I still want to emphasize to you. You can't let your emotions get the better of you. You can't make decisions based on your impulse. I believe that none of us want you to choose to stand up for us. Is that so? Guogwa could understand the world of adults, Sister Cho Yun. In fact, this is such a simple thing. We can all see it. If Soo-yun's father didn't want me to help him, he wouldn't have said this. I know his struggle. And I know that he is struggling because he cares about me. Cho Yun frowned. Guogwa knew too much, so it was difficult for her to change her mind. Even though she had enough influence on Guogwa, Guogwa was still a child with a strong sense of self-awareness. Perhaps this was the reason why Soo-yun dared to bring this matter to the surface and let Guogwa make her own choice. As for Ruan Qingshuang, her position was not as firm as Cho Yun's. She could understand Soo-yun's feelings for his friends and brothers. Therefore, Soo-yun brought this matter up because he didn't want to give up on Wen Xiao. Otherwise, Soo-yun wouldn't have to struggle. Sister Qingshuang, what do you think about Guogwa? Your suggestion is very important to Guogwa. Cho Yun was still very firm in her position. She wanted Ruan Qingshuang to stand on her side. Only then could she have enough influence on Guogwa and influence Guogwa's judgment and decision. Ruan Qingshuang was hesitant. She didn't know which side she should stand on. She couldn't choose between Guogwa and Soo-yun. Let's listen to Guogwa. Cho Yun was obviously a little disappointed when she heard this answer, but she could understand. If this matter didn't involve Guogwa, but anyone else, Cho Yun would also consider the problem from Soo-yun's position. The current situation was obvious. Although Soo-yun didn't say anything, the fact that he brought this matter up showed that deep in his heart, he still hoped that Guogwa would help him. Cho Yun's attitude was very clear. She was resolute against Guogwa getting her involved in this matter. Ruan Qingshuang remained neutral. She really didn't have a definite idea to provide Guogwa. Guogwa could only smile helplessly in the face of such a situation. She was standing right in the middle, and she was completely at a loss as to which side she would end up sliding towards. I'm making my own choice for my own path. You don't have any opinions, right? If you don't have any opinions, then it's fine. No matter what I decide, none of you can persuade me, Guogwa said. Dad, if you can guarantee this, I will make my own choice. Soo-yun nodded and told Guogwa very seriously. As long as it's your own choice, I will absolutely support it. That's good. Guogwa no longer hesitated and finally made her own decision. Since that person is your friend, then of course I can't leave him in the lurch. No matter what, he is your brother. Dad, in fact, I'm very lucky that I can help you in this matter. I admit that if this matter is only related to that person, I will definitely not help. But he is too lucky to have a friend like you. Soo-yun was stunned. Guogwa's words really shocked him. She was calmer than an adult. She knew very well what it meant for her to appear, and she also knew very well what she was doing. Guogwa, are you crazy? Cho Yun didn't care whether Guogwa would listen to her or not. As long as the matter hadn't started, she would never allow it. Soo-yun also hesitated. Guogwa, you should think about it more. Didn't you promise that no matter what choice I made, you wouldn't persuade me? Guogwa said. You can't go back on your words. No one can dissuade me from what I have decided to do. Otherwise, if you let me make a decision before, wouldn't you be lying to me? What's the point of letting me make a decision? Soo-yun said that he wanted Guogwa to think about it again. He was definitely not being polite, but he began to regret it after Guogwa agreed to this matter. Cho Yun looked at Soo-yun with some anger. She didn't blame Guogwa, only Soo-yun. Everything Guogwa did was because of Soo-yun. Soo-yun, if anything happens to Guogwa because of this matter, I will never forgive you. These weren't just words out of anger. Soo-yun absolutely believed it. If anything happened to Guogwa because of this matter, not to mention Cho Yun, even Ruan Qingshuang, who had been silent all this time, would never forgive him. Because this was a matter of principle, it was a mistake that couldn't be forgiven in front of them. And this mistake was made in front of them with Guogwa by Soo-yun. No one could forgive it. Guogua didn't support Cho Yun's statement. Sister Cho Yun, don't say that. None of us have the right to say such things to him. If it weren't for Su Yun's father, not only me, but also you, I'm afraid none of us would have the life we have today. We can live like normal people in this society, but it's not an opportunity that we fought for ourselves. We don't have the strength and ability. Cho Yun was speechless. Indeed, what Guogua said was an indisputable fact. Without Su Yun, they wouldn't have the present. If she could stand up and do something for Su Yun, she wouldn't hesitate. In an instant, Cho Yun began to understand Guogua's actions. There were many basic principles that even a child was clear about. Su Yun, do you want to reconsider and see if there's any other way? Ruan Qingshuang's worry grew. When she thought of the danger Guogua and Su Yun might encounter, she regretted not stopping Guogua earlier. Perhaps her words could really affect Guogua. Could Su Yun stop her? The answer was yes. He couldn't. I'm no longer the little sweetheart of the past. Guogua shook her head. From the moment I joined the Dragon Brigade, I knew that I would face all sorts of unexpected difficulties and dangers. I would face all sorts of missions that required me to take on all sorts of risks. But I've also learned that as long as what I do and what I choose doesn't go against the original and most sincere choice in my heart, then I will stick to what I choose and continue to do it. I won't regret it, and will only do it with my heart. Su Yun got up and patted Guogua's head. You're indeed my daughter. You're just like me. I think I'm more like Mommy. Mommy is so beautiful. Guogua giggled as she stepped forward and held Ruan Qingshuang's hand. She knew that Ruan Qingshuang was upset. Don't be so unhappy, Mommy. Think about it. With Daddy Su Yun protecting me, and I'm already a member of the Dragon Brigade, who would dare to provoke me? Even if there is someone, they would have to weigh their own worth, right? With the Dragon Brigade as a protective shell, perhaps Ruan Qingshuang was able to convince herself to relax. Guogua is Mommy's darling. I won't allow anything to happen to you, Ruan Qingshuang said. Otherwise, I really don't know what I should do. Whether it's this time or in the future, or anything else, I don't want Guogua to be in danger. Mommy, it seems like you and Daddy Su Yun really need to give me a little brother or sister. Otherwise, I'll be under a lot of pressure. Guogua sighed like a little adult. Hurry up and give birth to one. Can't we bring forward the plan? Ruan Qingshuang really didn't know what to do with this girl. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll sew your mouth shut. That won't do. How can I make my little brother laugh if I sew my mouth shut? Guogua tried her best to liven up the somewhat gloomy atmosphere in the room. Chapter 1762. Perhaps it was impossible to liven up the atmosphere in such a situation. So Guogua did not waste any more energy. Sister Cho Yun, I'll have to trouble you to make a trip to Swang. Although we agreed not to take that thing out, but it's a special situation. Please help me this time, and forgive my willfulness. What else could Cho Yun say? This was Guogua's life. This was Guogua's decision. This was what Guogua wanted to do. Forcing it would not change the outcome. Instead, it would only embarrass Guogua and make things difficult for Su Yun. The paboyu that Su Yun needed now had been hidden by Cho Yun a while ago. When Guogua understood her identity and the magic of the paboyu, she had started to consider this problem. Later, under Su Yun's suggestion, she decided to hide the jade. Of course, the place where she hid the jade was a safe place that Guogua and Cho Yun had thought of together. After Su Yun found out the reason for his sudden increase in strength, it was not that he did not lust after Guogua and the paboyu. It was just that he knew that he should control himself. This kind of sudden increase in strength required too much internal cultivation to support it. Otherwise, it would just be a show of strength, a paper tiger. It was just that there were too few people who could see through this point. Most people in the world would be attracted by this power, and forget all the other powerful relationships. In the eyes of martial practitioners, as long as they could obtain a sudden increase in strength, nothing else mattered. At that time, under Su Yun's suggestion, before Guogua left them to go to the Dragon Brigade, she handed the paboyu to Cho Yun. Cho Yun used the excuse of going back to Swang to bring the paboyu back to Swang. She also snuck into the Feng family's cemetery under the night sky, and buried the paboyu under Feng Qiansui's tombstone. Feng Qiansui had disappeared in the chaos. However, after resolving the chaos in Suang, Chou Yun still contacted someone to set up a tombstone for Feng Qiansui in the Feng family's cemetery. However, there was only an empty urn under the tombstone. Chou Yun knew that she might not be able to bury Feng Qiansui in this lifetime. Later, Chou Yun buried Guoguo's Paboyu in the urn under Feng Qiansui's tombstone in order to make Feng Qiansui feel at ease. Because in this way, Guoguo wouldn't be in any trouble. Moreover, Guoguo would enter the most powerful special forces in Huaxia and become a real female warrior. Okay, I'll go to Suang tomorrow. Chou Yun finally compromised. Su Yun, even if you're Zhuoling you can't. I won't tell anyone, Su Yun said. Except for Wen Xiao, no one will know that we can take out the Paboyu. That's good. Chou Yun nodded. Guoguo suddenly struggled. She didn't want to go to Suang at first because she had too many unpleasant memories in that place. But now she had a chance to go back and take a look. Did Guoguo really not want to go with Chou Yun? If she didn't go this time, she might have less chance to go back to Suang in the future. Even if her grandfather's ashes weren't under the tombstone, shouldn't she still go and pay her respects? Soon, Ruan Qingshuang saw Guoguo's hesitation. If you want to go, then go. Ruan Qingshuang said gently, after all, it's your home. If Chou Yun goes with you, we'll be relieved. I know your discipline. As for you, Marin, let Su Yun explain it to her, okay? Women were indeed more attentive. Su Yun didn't think of this at all. Go. There are not many chances. I can definitely help you settle you, Marin. Dad, you're instigating me to violate the rules and make mistakes. Guoguo stuck out her tongue. No wonder the people in the Dragon Brigade say that I'm not like your daughter. Who said you're not like her? I'll go back and settle the score with him. Why don't you look like her? I just think you look like her. Su Yun pretended to be angry. Because you always violate some rules and give the leaders a headache. I abide by everything, so everyone trusts me, Guoguo said. Isn't this not like you at all? Su Yun pursed his lips. Those who achieve great things don't care about trifles. Although some small mistakes shouldn't be made, it's not a big deal. Violating the rules also depends on whether what you do has any meaning. Then does mine have any meaning? Guoguo said. Yes. Su Yun, you just violated the rules of leaving Yu Marin's custody. What you need to do is to visit your grandfather. It's also the Qingming festival. Of course it's meaningful. I'll explain it to you, Marin. You can rest assured and go with Chou Yun. Guoguo grinned. Then let's go now. The sooner we settle this matter, the sooner we can get it over with. I agree. Chou Yun nodded. The sooner they settled it, the sooner Guoguo would be out of trouble. This was inevitable. We'll leave now. I'll leave the matters here to you. Su Yun nodded. Go early and come back early. Be careful on the way. Don't worry. I'm here. Chou Yun said. It only took 7 or 8 hours to drive from Qingdao to Suang. If they left now, they could make it in time for dinner. Then they would find a place to settle down. Then they would go to the Feng family's cemetery in the dead of night. Although it was a bit scary to go to such a place in the dead of night, they had no choice. If they were to dig a grave in the daytime, they would definitely be caught by the gravekeeper. This kind of thing could only be done in the middle of the night. The gravekeeper would not wander around the cemetery in the middle of the night. In other words, even if the gravekeeper wandered around in the middle of the night, he would probably be scared half to death when he saw someone digging a grave. How would he have the time to chase them away? As the saying went, it rained heavily during the Qingming festival. Not long after Chou Yun and Guoguo drove on the road, it began to drizzle melancholically. There were quite a lot of cars on the highway. Perhaps there were too many people who worked hard in other cities. They all wanted to go back to their hometown at this time to kowtow in front of their ancestral graves, toast a pot of wine, and burn some paper money so that their ancestors in the underworld could live a better life. The customs of Huaxia were always so considerate. However, now the rich burned tens of billions of paper money. They burned a box of paper money at once. Did the paper money in the underworld depreciate very badly? It was estimated that the paper money of 10 billion paper money was only enough to buy a box of matches. It was raining and there were many cars. The highway could not be driven at all. Chou Yun did not dare to drive fast. If it really did not work, they could take a rest in Swang today. One day of delay was one day of delay. Anyway, they were already out. Cho Yun's idea was a little selfish. She just wanted Guogua to stay with her for one more day. But it was really not her fault. She had watched Guogua grow up since she was a child. This mischievous little girl was her biological younger sister. Therefore, when Guogua left, the person she was most reluctant to part with was her. She was really reluctant to part with her. During this period of time, Guogua had been busy with them. Although she did not do much, her mental exhaustion showed. Not long after getting in the car, she was still talking with Cho Yun. Then she fell asleep quietly. Seeing Guogua sleeping soundly, Cho Yun seemed to have a peaceful satisfaction in her heart. Feng Qiansui, I hope that your spirit in heaven can bless Guogua, so that she won't encounter those dangers and troubles. I hope that her future life can be smooth sailing and turn misfortune into blessing. This is Cho Yan's only wish now. When Yu Marin learned about everything, Cho Yun and Guogua had already driven away from Qingdao. Although Yu Marin knew that it was a mistake, it had already been done. Besides, it was instigated by Su Yun. What else could she say except for helplessness? Don't worry. They will be back soon after getting the things. Su Yun did not need to hide it from Yu Marin. Yu Marin knew Guogua's identity. I don't know if my decision is right. Haha, but Wen Xiao can be saved. Yu Marin frowned. You are really capable of doing anything. After this is over, I will take Guogua away immediately to reduce her danger as much as possible. Staying in the Dragon Brigade must be safer than staying with you. You must be careful. Chapter 1763. Everything was going according to Su Yun's normal plan. Everything related to Guogua was also kept a secret. Although Zhuo Lengyue was concerned, she was powerless in this matter. Mo Wentian didn't want to get involved in this matter, and had gotten himself out of it long ago. Therefore no one knew about Su Yun's plan. Everyone had the same thought. Don't mention this matter to Su Yun so that he wouldn't feel uncomfortable. They tried their best to avoid the topic of Jin Xiao so that he wouldn't think too much about it. However, this was what Su Yun wanted. He was really worried that someone would ask him about this matter. He didn't want to lie to anyone. However, this was a serious matter. Su Yun had to hide the secret of Guogua. He lied to everyone and made them think that he couldn't do anything about it. However, he secretly let Cho Yun take Guogua away. As for people asking about Guogua and Cho Yun, he just used the excuse that it was the Qingming festival to brush them off. Because Mo Wentian concluded that there was an uninvited guest in the hospital, Su Yun decided to stay in the hospital at night to prevent anyone from entering Wen Zhao's room again. Chun Wei also increased the care. He arranged for experienced criminal police officers to be on night duty instead of young people. Although Zhuo Lengyue and Bai Xiaoye were worried about Su Yun staying in the hospital alone, according to the analysis of the situation, even if someone appeared in Wen Zhao's room last night, they didn't do anything fatal or malicious. Too much entanglement would only make them feel uneasy. Moreover, Su Yun's current physical condition had already basically recovered. Wanting to take advantage of an expert who had only reached the earth-profound realm was truly not an easy matter. They believed that the uninvited guest wouldn't be so stupid as to walk into a trap. Yu Marin wouldn't stop Su Yun in any way. She knew that Su Yun had something to talk to Wen Xiao, so she found an excuse to accompany him for the night. After all, Wen Xiao was the person involved. As long as Su Yun took out the Paboyu, Wen Xiao would be able to sniff out the matter. In order to not give up on Wen Xiao, Su Yun let Guogua take the risk. Therefore he had to absolutely ensure Guogua's safety. Even if Wen Xiao was his brother, Su Yun still had to say it out loud. And these words could only be said in the dead of night when there were only the two of them. Wen Xiao was still in the dark. To him, Paboyu was definitely something that he did not dare to think about. If Su Yun was still troubled by this, he would really feel very apologetic. Boss, if you still treat me as a brother, then don't bother about me anymore. Wen Xiao didn't know what he was saying, but he just didn't want to see Su Yun in a difficult position. Such a small difficulty can stop you? Su Yun smiled slightly. There is nothing in this world that cannot be solved. But if you give up, even the simplest thing can't be done. If I say you can be saved, then you can still be saved. Wen Xiao smiled bitterly. But this persistence, is there any meaning? Wen Xiao, I have something to tell you. But before I say it, I want you to give me a guarantee. This secret cannot be told to a second person, and you will definitely not have any evil thoughts because of this matter. Su Yin. Can you do it? Wen Xiao was startled. Of course. If you want me to guarantee it, then I will definitely guarantee it. If you can't do it, I will immediately take your life. Su Yin didn't have any intention of joking. Do you still dare to guarantee it? Wen Xiao. In order to save you, I will not leave any leeway and do everything I can. However, if you are not worthy of me saving you, for the sake of my principles, I will not hesitate to take action against you again, just like many years ago. You should still remember it clearly. When Xiao realized the seriousness of the matter, Su Yin didn't seem to be joking with him at all. This matter was clearly out of the ordinary. Boss, my life is yours. You can take it away at any time. When Xiao said, I dare to guarantee you that I will never let you down again. Su Yin was silent for a moment before finally speaking up. The Paboyu that you need, I have it. When Xiao was somewhat dumbfounded. He had yet to realize the meaning behind those words. Clearly, Su Yin's expression told him that he was not joking. There was no need for Su Yin to say anything more about Paboyu. When Xiao already knew what it meant. If the Zikijoa tribe really existed, most of the world's wars wouldn't be concentrated in the resource-rich regions of Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Wouldn't the entire world go crazy over them? You should be very clear about the meaning behind my words, Su Yin said. You should also be very clear about how much trust one have in you by doing this. I'm not joking either. If you have any other intentions regarding this matter, I will not hesitate to take action against you. When Xiao knew that Su Yin was serious, but he really couldn't understand who exactly was the Zikijoa tribe. No wonder Su Yin was so powerful. He could even resist the power of his inner demon by relying on his own strength. No matter how powerful a person's talent was, this was definitely an inconceivable growth rate in strength. Boss, you really have Zikijoa tribe by your side? Wen Zhao's eyes widened as he looked at Su Yin in disbelief. He used his hand to fiercely pinch the most painful part between his thumb and forefinger. This was definitely not a dream. Su Yin was really telling him a fact. There were only two people in the room, Su Yin and Wen Xiao. No matter how they thought about it, there was a third party who could hear their conversation. It was that boundless listening device that had already transmitted their conversation to Vulture's ears. Vulture's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. This kind of news was truly earth-shattering to him. Su Yin was silent for a while before he nodded. That's right. Guogua is a Zikijoa tribe member. She has been wearing a Paboyu since she was young. Now that she and Chou Yun have embarked on the road to Suzhou and Hangzhou, she will bring the Paboyu back. Wen Zhao's mind was completely blank as it buzzed incessantly. He really couldn't believe that a miracle would happen to him. Wen Xiao, apart from you, I didn't let anyone else know about this matter. Apart from you, Marin, no one else here today knows about Guogua's identity, Su Yin said. Those of us who know about Guogua's identity will definitely not let anything happen to Guogua. Today, you know that if you have other intentions and let me find out, I will end it for you immediately. I mean what I say. When Xiao was stunned for a long time. Boss, you're actually willing to take such a big risk for me. If I, Wen Xiao, still don't know what's good for me, then I'm really worse than a pig or a dog. I won't give up on you until the last moment. Wen Xiao, repent before you're saved, Su Yin said. This is the last chance I can give you. For some reason, Wen Xiao, who knew that he could be saved, couldn't feel happy. He felt guilty. His appearance had brought too much pressure to Su Yin. It was too much pressure that people couldn't bear. If it was anyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to bear this kind of pressure. Only Su Yin would be willing to bear all this pressure and danger for him. Boss, my life is your life, Wen Xiao said. Whatever you say, it is. If you want it, you can take it away at any time. With Wen Zhao's guarantee, Su Yin felt that everything he did wasn't in vain. Chapter 1764. Vulture, who had obtained first-hand information, seemed to have smelled the rotting smell of a corpse. He was so excited that his eyes emitted a green glow. No wonder an ancient person in Huaxia once said, "When the heavens give a great responsibility to a great man, they must first torment his will, tire his muscles and bones, and disturb his actions." It turned out that there was a reason why Vulture had been going downhill for so many years after the appearance of the one-eyed man. It was because the heavens wanted to give Vulture this great responsibility, so he had to train himself during this period of time. It was because he had endured this difficult life that he had the opportunity to achieve great things today. The little girl from the Zixuhoya tribe called Guogua. In an instant, Vulture had already imagined the moment when he reached the peak of his strength. That little girl was from the Zixuhoya tribe, and there was no need to look for Paboyu alone. She had it. Was there anything more wonderful than this in the world? No, this was the most wonderful thing. Did you hear that? Red Eagle, do you know what this means to me, to us? Vulture was so excited that his hands began to tremble. I will become the strongest mercenary king in the world. That's right. I will become the soldier king. Wolf King Yiqian will no longer be a match for me. He can't be compared to me. I, Vulture, am the super soldier king in this world. You, Red Eagle, are the Eagle King, the #1 general under me. I want to share the world with you. Compared to Vulture's excitement, Red Eagle was calmer. Can this person's words be trusted? Is he just comforting Wen Xiao, or is it true? We still don't know and can't judge. It's better to be careful. What do you mean? This person's words might not be true? Vulture was startled. Red Eagle, no one would casually make such a joke. Regardless of whether it is true or not, saying it will bring trouble to oneself. Who would say such nonsense? Moreover, he didn't choose to talk about this matter during the day when there were many people. Instead, he chose to talk to Wen Xiao alone in the middle of the night. Obviously, he knows that this matter is of great importance. Red Eagle nodded. Yes, I also think that he chose this time to tell Wen Xiao. This matter is very real, but we still have to be careful. What if it is a plan to lure the tiger away from the mountain, or a way to lure the snake out of its hole? Wouldn't we have taken the bait? Vulture was stunned. That was indeed the case. After all, his presence in the ward had already been exposed. What if it was really a test? Then wouldn't he really be at a loss? Since he didn't know whether this was bait or food, then he, Vulture, had to be careful. Then we will also arrange for people to go. Vulture said lightly, Red Eagle, who do you think is more suitable to do this? It's not good for more people to know about this. I'm afraid that once more people know about it, we'll be the first to panic, Red Hawk said. I will personally make a judgment on this matter. If it is true, I will bring the person back immediately. If it is false, I will try my best to escape and not let them get hold of my weakness. I will not expose your existence. Vulture nodded. Red Eagle, you have been with me for so many years. You understand me the best, and you are the most considerate. I am really at ease with what you do. I don't even dare to imagine how bad I would have been without your support all these years. You are my brother. I have to thank you. This is my duty. Since I said that I want to be loyal to you, I will definitely be loyal. Red Eagle said, Don't worry. Wait for my good news. I will rush to Swang overnight. Vulture nodded. Go quickly and come back quickly. Be careful on the way. Yes. Red Eagle hurriedly turned around and prepared to leave. Time waited for no one. He was already a little late to Swang. If he did not hurry, he might really miss it. Just as Red Eagle walked to the door of the guest room and was about to open it, a cold wind attacked him from behind. The defenseless Red Hawk was caught off guard. By the time he turned around to resist, it was already too late. Vulture was like an eagle pouncing on its prey. Without hesitation, he clawed at Red Eagle's heart. Red Eagle did not expect Vulture to launch such a sneak attack on him. In a situation where he was completely unprepared, he, who was slightly weaker than his opponent, could only bear the damage caused by this attack. Boom. Red Eagle's body fell heavily on the wall. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He staggered to his feet, but Vulture had no intention of stopping. He attacked again. Red Eagle was punched in the chest from the beginning. He did not have a chance to fight back. Even his defense and dodging became slow. After 3 to 5 moves, he was forced into a corner of the room by Vulture. He did not have any chance to fight back or escape. Why? Red Eagle widened his eyes and looked at Vulture in confusion. Why are you doing this to me? If you did not have my loyal support all these years, how could you be where you are today? If it wasn't for me staying by your side all those years ago, your mercenary group would have been destroyed by One-Eyed. Today you're going to attack me from behind? Clearly Red Eagle could not understand Vulture's actions. Even if you were an opponent, such a despicable act would be looked down upon by others. We've already come this far, and you still want to say so many nice things to me? Vulture sneered. Red Eagle, I've always thought that you're the most loyal person to me, and I've always treated you as my brother. Half of my world belongs to you, half of my mercenary group belongs to you, and half of my wealth belongs to you as well. I promised you that I would give you all of these, but I never thought that you would be so insatiable. Vulture's eyes were bloodshot. At first glance, he looked like a bloodthirsty beast. You don't just want half. You want everything. My entire world. My entire wealth. My entire mercenary group. You want to have complete possession. Red Eagle could not understand. He spat out another mouthful of blood. You're crazy. Why would you say that? My loyalty has been clear to everyone all these years. I want everything from you. What is it that makes you think so? I think so? That depends on how you do it. Red Eagle, don't you feel that your actions are very suspicious? Don't you feel that everything you've done is chilling my heart? Vulture said. You just got the news of the Zixahoya tribe, and you can't hold it in anymore? You went to Swung by yourself. Do you really think I'm a fool? You're crazy, you're really crazy. You've misunderstood me. Red Eagle endured the pain in his heart and stood up. I'm really thinking for you. Who would use such a joke to comfort a cripple? Vulture laughed coldly. This Su Yin has been deliberating for an entire day. Only then did he choose to tell Wen Xiao this secret in the dead of night. You actually said that this could be to lure the snake out of its hole? Since it was to lure the snake out of its hole, why didn't you arrange for someone else to go? Why did you have to go alone? Red Eagle was stunned. He did not speak anymore. He was completely stumped by Vulture's question. Because you know very well that this isn't a matter of luring the snake out of its hole. This is the best opportunity to obtain the Zixahoya tribe and the Pobo Jade. Vulture's expression began to twist. That's why you have to be one step ahead. Only by being one step ahead can you have a chance. Chapter 1765. Red Eagle shook his head helplessly. You are simply unreasonable. Unreasonable. Why do you suspect me like this? I am clearly doing this for your own good, afraid that you will be deceived, but you actually think of me that way. All these years, you have always said that you trust me, but now it seems that the person you are most wary of is me, right? Of course I have to be wary of you. Since ancient times, whenever a king leads an army to successfully ascend the throne, he has to get rid of the person he trusts the most. Why? It is because he trusts them too much, so he has to be most wary of them. Vulture said. The person I trust the most is you, so the person I am most wary of is also you. If I didn't trust you, I wouldn't be where I am today. If I didn't guard against you, I wouldn't be where I am today. This is the simplest principle. What do you want, to kill me? All the things I have done for you all these years, in your eyes, are they really worthless? Red Eagle said disheartenedly. I really don't want to fight with you, really. Give me a chance, I will definitely not disappoint you. Vulture's smile was very strange. Do you know what kind of deception is the scariest? Deception with a smile is the scariest. How can I trust you again? How can I trust you again? If I give you a chance, won't I have to give up my final success? Give you the Zixahoya people? Give you Poboyu? Will you still be willing to be under me? Red Eagle, I know you too well. Red Eagle was silent. He knew that he had to remain calm to have a chance to survive. People who had been on the battlefield all year round had the ability to calm themselves down. This was not something people were born with, but something that was tempered through long-term danger. If I didn't understand you, I wouldn't have let you become the person I trust the most. Vulture continued. You are willing to be under me because you know that I am ambitious, I have the ability, and I am a person who is good at seizing opportunities. Therefore, if you stay by my side, you will be able to obtain even more things. If you stay by my side, you will become someone who is second only to me and above everyone else. Isn't that right? Of course, Red Eagle admitted this. He was also an ambitious person, but he really did not have the ability to lead a team like Vulture. However, his own ability was not bad. Instead of leading a half-dead mercenary group, he might as well join an ambitious person and be willing to be the second in command. You know the reason why you're willing to do this? Vulture asked. Would you still be willing if you obtained the Zikoa tribe and the Pobo Jade? Red Eagle's heart twitched violently. He believed that no one in this world would be willing to submit to another person after obtaining another Zixahoya, because there was no need for that. Why should he, Red Eagle, be the eternal number 2? Why couldn't he, Red Eagle, be the boss and let Vulture be his assistant? If he could obtain the Zikijoa tribesman first, his strength would surpass Vulture's in a short period of time. At that time, he would be the boss. He wanted Vulture to be his subordinate. After so many years, it should be his turn, right? No matter how loyal a person was, as long as there was enough temptation, they would abandon their loyalty in a short period of time. The so-called loyalty could only exist under the basic condition of not having enough temptation. Many people thought that the most loyal thing in the world was love that lasted for 7 days. However, even if it was the most loyal thing in the world, there would still be people who would abandon it under some great temptation. When 1 million could not make you leave your loved one, what about 10 million? If 10 million was not enough, what about 100 million? A billion? 10 billion? There was always a bargaining chip that could break the fragile loyalty in the human heart. If you said you didn't know how to do it, that was because the bargaining chip was an illusory thing. And now, there was a living Zikoa tribesman in Swang City, a few hundred kilometers away. As long as he arrived first, he would be able to obtain this thing that everyone in the entire underground world yearned for. What loyalty was there to speak of? Red Eagle's heart was indeed shaken. He should not blame Vulture for suspecting him and plotting against him behind his back. If he could walk out of this door safely, he would definitely betray him after he obtained the Zikoa tribesman. There was nothing to explain, it was just because this bargaining chip was too tempting. No one could resist this bargaining chip. Red Eagle, it's not my fault. Vulture said. My rationality has long been swallowed by this temptation, and so has yours. Because we are the same kind of people, we can walk together. The reason why I suspect you is really simple. As long as I put myself in your shoes and think about it, I will know what you will do. No one could deny Red Eagle's loyalty, but this time, he admitted that he was not loyal enough. No one could control that kind of thinking. You're right. Red Eagle smiled bitterly. If I had walked out of this door just now, 2 days later, the one who would be talking to each other with his head held high would definitely be me. This is something that can't be shared. I finally understand why the Zikoa tribesmen are an extinct race. Before Vulture was about to make a move on Red Eagle, he suddenly felt a little reluctant. After all, they had gone through life and death together for so many years. This was not something that could be explained with just a few words. Fortunately, Vulture understood that as long as someone was involved in the secret of the Zikoa tribesmen, they could only face death if they could not survive to the end. This was the conclusion that had been reached for thousands of years. Both he and Red Eagle would have to face it. Since Vulture wanted to be the one who could survive to the end, he had to face the terror of death with Red Eagle. Everything should be over. Life was like this, it was colorful enough. After Vulture personally killed Red Eagle, he calmly tidied his clothes. He had to personally take action on this trip to Suang. In the face of such a temptation, the only person in the world who could make him believe was himself. Anyone would be like this. During Qingming Festival, the drizzle along the way seriously hindered Cho Yun and Guogua's driving speed. In addition, some people did not follow the traffic rules on the highway, speeding and changing lanes randomly, resulting in a car accident. The car was destroyed and the people were killed. They could only cry to the king of hell if they regretted it. Actually, a car accident on the highway would not block the car for several kilometers. It was because some immoral drivers casually occupied the emergency lane that the entire road was blocked. Even the ambulances could not reach the scene in time. In other words, if a seriously injured person died because of these immoral drivers who casually occupied the emergency lane, these people were killers. They should be sentenced to a severe punishment. Look at these immoral drivers. Some drove luxury cars and acted like they were bosses. Usually, these people's money was not clean. People with clean money were low-key and had good manners. Of course, there were also drivers who drove ordinary cars. No wonder they could not afford luxury cars. With this kind of quality, this was the fate of their lives. Anyway, they had wasted a lot of time on the road. By the time Cho Yun and Guogua arrived in Suang, it was already very late. It was at least 4 or 5 hours later than they had expected. Their stomachs were rumbling with hunger. And the rain in Suang was so continuous. Cho Yun decided at the last minute not to go to the cemetery today. She would rest first and bring Guogua to eat something and sleep. It would not be too late to pay respects tomorrow morning, and wait until tomorrow night to take action. Guogua's stomach was growling. Of course, she agreed with Cho Yun's decision. Moreover, Cho Yun had spent the whole day on the highway. She indeed needed a good rest. If she took the things and rushed back tomorrow, she would definitely not be able to take it. This Paboyu was definitely safer buried in the cemetery than in their hands. Therefore, since they could not go back immediately tomorrow, there was no harm in waiting for another night. Chapter 1766. On this rainy night, Cho Yun and Guogua had a lot to talk about. Guogua had learned a lot during her time in the Dragon Brigade. She had a background that everyone envied, but she was caught up with an unfortunate childhood. All the tribulations happened to her, and at one point, she, who was extremely optimistic, almost gave up on the pursuit of life. However, in the Dragon Brigade, she realized that compared to the others, she was still considered lucky. At least she had 6 years of happiness. Many people in the Dragon Brigade, including Su Yun's father, didn't even have a minute of childhood. From the first day they could remember, they were faced with training. And that training was something that no ordinary child could endure. The inhumane training made them cold-blooded, but the teamwork made them loyal and loyal. Other than the training, the values they were taught were hard to understand. Even a smart child like Guogua had just begun to understand why Su Yun's father was willing to give up everything he had, even his life, for the sake of righteousness. In fact, this was the meaning of life. If it wasn't for her life in the Dragon Brigade, Guogua wouldn't have stood up at this time and sacrificed herself for someone who had nothing to do with her. As for Guogua, who came from the Divine Dragon Brigade, she understood one thing. No matter how evil Wen Xiao was, he had once contributed to the country. Su Yun would not hesitate to do anything for him, so he definitely had his reasons. On a deeper level, if it wasn't for Wen Zhao's appearance, perhaps Su Yun still wouldn't have been able to fight against his inner demons. Although both sides were injured, the rewards were great. At least it proved that Su Yun had enough strength to fight against his inner demons. This was more or less due to Wen Zhao's efforts. If Guogua could save him, it could be considered as returning the favor. In addition, Guogua also saw the value in Wen Xiao from Yumarin's gaze. Perhaps he could be the key to breaking the human's inner demons. If Yumarin could master this, it would be a great asset to the Dragon Brigade. In the Dragon Brigade, there were so many Special Forces members. Su Yun wasn't the only one who lost control because of his inner demons. Su Yun wasn't the only one who lost control because of it. There were people who became disabled or even died because of it every year. If this was the meaning of saving Wen Xiao, then Guogua could accept it. Of course she had to step forward bravely. Of course she had to see this as her mission. Because in a deeper sense, this matter had its own righteousness. Since she had become a member of the Dragon Brigade, Guogua had to be prepared to sacrifice her own interests for the sake of the greater good. This sacrifice might not be worth it in the eyes of many people, but in Guogua's heart, in Su Yun's heart, in the heart of everyone in the Dragon Brigade, it was worth it. Cho Yun couldn't understand because she had entered the underground world at a very young age. If it wasn't for Feng Qiansui's kindness, she might have died in the chaos of the underground world. Therefore, her understanding of survival was that the weak were prey to the strong. It was definitely different from Su Yun and the others. After Guogua said a lot of things, Cho Yun started to understand. Perhaps that righteousness really required a very high level of spiritual comprehension to understand and see through it. On the same drizzling night, Vulture madly rushed from Guqin Island to Swang. For this matter, he could even abandon everything he had. As long as he could obtain that wonderful power from the Zikijoa tribe, he would be able to contend against everyone and challenge everyone. Right now, the mercenary group was no longer the sustenance of Vulture's life. The sustenance of his life was Guogua, the piece of Pabo jade. Legend had it that the Pabo jade contained endless power and could be transformed into another person's body. He madly rushed to Swang. Even though the road was slippery and the rain didn't stop, he still drove the car as fast as he could. He enjoyed the passion and the impulse to chase after power without caring about anything else. Although searching for two people in the huge Swang sounded like searching for the moon at the bottom of the ocean, it was actually very simple. He grew up in the war-torn zones and had experienced so many wars. What was there to be afraid of? What was there to be afraid of? He was just looking for a person. Even if they were in a country, he could use his extraordinary sense of smell to find them in a short period of time. He could deduce a person's whereabouts based on their identity. Based on the identities of these people and the identity of the Zixahoya girl, the place they stayed in naturally couldn't be a small hotel by the street, nor could it be an ordinary hotel. He only needed to inspect the best hotels in Swang one by one to solve the problem. Of course, he couldn't deduce from room to room. According to what he eavesdropped, he could deduce the time of their departure. He could also deduce how long it would take for them to travel from Guqin Island to Swang based on the road conditions and weather. Therefore, he only needed to enter the hotel's surveillance room and knock out the people there first. Then, he could quickly investigate the surveillance footage of people entering and leaving the hotel during this period of time. Obviously, Vulture's sense of smell was extraordinarily accurate. He used an entire night to rush to Swang. With his identity as a mercenary leader, it was easy for him to enter a hotel's surveillance room and obtain what he wanted to see. It couldn't be any simpler. He only used an afternoon to find the hotel that the Zixahoya tribe girl, Guogua, was staying in. He also obtained the hotel's registration directory through his own unconventional means. Judging from the surveillance footage, he quickly found the room card that Cho Yun received after registering her identity. Under Vulture's keen sense of smell, all of this seemed so easy. The leader of a mercenary group indeed had his own unusual side. Perhaps it could be said that when a person had an urgent need for something, he would become resolute and resolute. He would think of all possible ways to solve any problem. Finally, he found his target. The only thing left for Vulture to do was to bide his time and bide his time. He knew that the woman by Guogua's side called Cho Yun was not simple. However, he also believed that he was strong enough to deal with her. Now he needed to confirm another thing before he could make a move. That was whether Paboyu was already with Guogua. Cho Yun and Guogua didn't come out after entering the hotel. They felt that the less they showed their faces, the safer they would be. Because Cho Yun looked at the weather forecast from time to time, the rain stopped at noon. Therefore, they didn't rush to the cemetery to pay their respects. Instead, they waited until after lunch. The rain finally stopped. After the rain, Swang looked much brighter than usual. Perhaps it was because the sun had pierced through the clouds. It made Guogua's mood brighter. They decided not to go to the cemetery with grief. That was not what Feng Qiansui wanted to see. Guogua wanted to tell her grandfather that her current life was very good. It was the kind of life she wanted to pursue. She wanted him to not worry about her in heaven. That was the only thing she wanted to say. Although Guogua knew that there was nothing under the tombstone, she still believed that as long as she was sincere, her grandfather would be able to hear it. Chapter 1767. After the rain, the cemetery was filled with the fragrance of the earth. Although this smell could only be described as wonderful by a sour scholar, Guagua really liked this smell for a moment. It was not that she was sour, but everyone would think that the land in their hometown was the most charming. Grandpa, you may not know that a lot of things have happened to me recently. I have always wanted to tell you about it, but I have never had the chance. Ever since the Fong family's accident, Guagua really did not stop. She really did not have the chance to come here and talk about the bitterness and joy in her heart. After Sister Cho Yun ran away with me, the two of us were like headless flies. So many people chased after us, and Sister Cho Yun could not sleep for almost an entire week. Guagua gently stroked the engraved words on the tombstone. Although there was nothing underground, she believed that her grandpa's soul was here. Later, she left me next to a garbage dump. When I woke up and found that I was alone, I was really scared. Cho Yun's eyes could not help but redden. She really had no choice at that time. If she had any other choice, she would not have left Guagua alone in that place. Fortunately, in this world, kind people always had good luck. Guagua met a very important person in her life, Wan Qingshuang. At first, I resented Sister Cho Yun because I treated her as my biological sister since I was young. You also treated her as your other biological granddaughter. But at such a dangerous time, she left me. Guagua said. At that time, I hated it, really hated it. But I soon understood that Sister Cho Yun could not bear to leave me. She left me because she was afraid of implicating me. At that time, she was already injured. It was not until later when I met her that I realized how serious her injury was. Perhaps it was because Guagua's words had moved the heavens, but the originally sunny weather began to turn cloudy and gloomy again. She was already so severely injured, but she still put me in a safe place and purposely left obvious clues to lure away the people who were after us. Guagua suddenly raised her head and looked at Cho Yun with a smile. Just like that, all the dangers around me were resolved, and she survived in the cracks of all kinds of dangers. Until she found me, she didn't dare to show her face to me because she was afraid that she would bring trouble and danger to me. Guagua, why are you talking about this? Feng Qiansui doesn't like to listen to this. You should talk about happy things. Cho Yun was afraid that she would lose control and couldn't bear to listen anymore. Sister Cho Yun, it wasn't you who brought trouble and danger to me. It was me who brought trouble and danger to you. It was because of me that you were in danger, Guagua said. She looked back at the tombstone again. But all the unpleasant experiences are in the past. I'm fine now, and so is Sister Cho Yun, because I found a reliable son for you, an old man with a bad life. With me Su Yun as your father, everything will be better. Guagua's mood was really like the weather in June. She, who was still silent in pain, began to talk about Su Yun nonstop. Su Yun had brought joy to her life. Everything was so wonderful. Just like that, Guagua and Cho Yun spent 3 hours in the cemetery under the uncertain weather. Although Guagua was still not satisfied when she left, Vulture, who had been hiding for 3 hours, was about to collapse. For 3 hours, he had stayed in a cemetery. For the leader of an armed mercenary group, dead people were definitely bad luck. After a war, he would try his best to stay away from dead people and graves, because these things would bring bad luck to him. This was also a superstition among the armed mercenaries. But Vulture had no choice. He couldn't give up any chance. Perhaps if he was distracted for a moment, he would miss the precious Paboyu. Not to mention this was a cemetery. Even if it was a corpse pit, he would keep watch. For the whole afternoon, Vulture really didn't gain anything. He was like a headless fly. His head was full of stars. He crazily waited for every opportunity. But Guagua and Cho Yun didn't show any signs of coming here. After leaving the cemetery, Cho Yun and Guagua went to a very famous fish restaurant in Suang. This was a restaurant that Guagua used to like very much. But after the incident, she hadn't come here even once. Now that there was an opportunity, Cho Yun obviously wouldn't miss it. After the worship, they ate, drank, and played. This made Vulture confused. Was this really just a small trick to lure the snake out of its hole and the tiger away from its mountain? Was this really just a lie that didn't exist at all? Yes, maybe it really was a lie. No. Vulture quickly woke himself up. Even if it was a lie, he would only believe it if he saw it with his own eyes. It wasn't easy to take on such a big responsibility. Vulture blamed himself for thinking too much. He told himself that he had to be patient. He had to be patient. Only with enough patience would he get the chance. But when it was late at night, Vulture proved that his persistence was right. When it was midnight, Cho Yun and Guogua drove to the cemetery again. Vulture realized that this paboya must have something to do with the cemetery. Ha ha ha, the heavens didn't disappoint those who worked hard. The cemetery was so quiet in the middle of the night. It was located in a remote mountainous area. Even the sound of a car engine had become a luxury at night. In such a quiet situation, it was difficult for Vulture to follow them. He could only think of one way, and that was to arrive before them. Guogua and Cho Yen walked leisurely on the stone steps leading to the Feng family's graveyard. The Feng family's graveyard was not the only graveyard in this huge cemetery. Zhang San, Li Si Qian and Pockmarked Zi's graves were all in this cemetery. Thinking about the tombstones on both sides, it was really scary. Even if there were urns buried below, it still gave off a chilling feeling. I'm just passing by. Don't blame me. I'm just passing by. Don't blame me. Guogua mumbled as she walked. She looked so cute. Even if there were ghosts seeing such a cute girl, they would be too embarrassed to come out and scare people. Cho Yun smiled helplessly as she followed behind Guogua. She was an absolute atheist, so she didn't feel anything. Even if she had to stay in this cemetery for a night, she wouldn't even frown. Of course, Guogua was also an atheist, but a child was still a child after all. In this kind of situation, it was indeed a little scary. If it were any other child, they would have cried until they lost their soul and courage. It was already not easy for Guogua to still be able to walk forward while apologizing. Soon, after passing by the graves of several big families, Guogua and Cho Yun finally arrived at the Feng family cemetery again. Cho Yun frowned. Even though she was an atheist, she still felt a little creepy. But she didn't say anything, afraid that she would frighten Guogua. After all, there wouldn't be any changes in the cemetery in the middle of the night. Cho Yun tried to adjust her breathing. She must be a little too nervous. After getting paboyu, she decided to leave Suang without stopping. The sooner she arrived at Qingdao, the sooner she would be out of danger. Cho Yun thought as she took out the military shovel that she had prepared in advance. Although it was late at night in the cemetery, digging up the graves had to be done as quietly and carefully as possible, so as not to disturb the rest of the neighbors. Chapter 1768. Grandpa, I'm sorry to disturb you. Guogua stuck out her tongue. Although there was nothing under the tombstone, Vulture really thought that there was someone buried under it. He also felt that these people were really extravagant. They even treated paboyu as a funerary object. Cho Yun didn't say much. She carefully used the military shovel in her hand to dig up the wet soil under her feet. Soon, a stone trough was revealed. The empty urn was placed in the stone trough, effectively avoiding moisture. Guogua carefully took out the urn and slowly opened the lid. The paboyu that she had worn since she was a child was lying inside. Guogua originally thought that she would never take it out again in her life. She let it replace Feng Qiansui under the tombstone, and enjoy it for 1,000 years. Life is unpredictable. Many things happen contrary to our wishes, but people always have to learn to adapt to society. Only then can we survive in this world with the identity of a strong person. If you can't adapt, you can only be a weak coward. You will be depressed for the rest of your life. Grandpa, let's make it clear first. Although your granddaughter came here to disturb you today, you have to bless me. Guogua said. I am still counting on you. Guogua, don't talk to yourself. Old Qiansui is not here. Maybe his disappearance is really just a disappearance. Cho Yen said with some melancholy. It's our wishful thinking that he's gone. Isn't that too much? Guogua smiled. Sister Cho Yun, even I don't deceive myself anymore. Do you still want to deceive yourself? If Grandpa is really missing, it has been so long. If he is still alive, he will definitely come to us. He is gone. We should accept this fact. There is no one under the tombstone? Vulture was a little shocked when he heard this. The place where the item was hidden was too special. It was really not something that ordinary people could think of. Even if this paboyu was a funerary object, I would still want it. As long as it was something good, it would not bring bad luck. Vulture, who had been hiding in the shadows of the graveyard earlier, could not help but laugh. A laugh in the middle of the night, especially in such a situation, was enough to make people's hearts jump out of their chests. Could it be that Guagua had apologized along the way, but these neighbors still hadn't forgiven her? I don't know which grandpa, grandma, uncle you are. Please don't be offended. We're just taking something from our own place. If we've disturbed your rest, we're really sorry. Please continue to have a good rest. We'll leave immediately and won't disturb you anymore. Guagua mumbled as she looked around. Cho Yun, who had been vigilant all this time, quickly made all the defensive preparations. She knew very well that there were no ghosts in this world. Even if there were ghosts, they were all people in disguise. She shouted at the darkness where the voice came from. Who is it? Don't pretend to be a ghost. Come out. Vulture had already confirmed that they had obtained the paboyu, so there was no need to hide anymore. Facing a woman and a child, even if the woman's strength was not ordinary and was an expert, Vulture still did not put them in his eyes. One must know that Vulture's strength was about the same as Wen Zhao's. Although he was slightly weaker, he was still someone who could stand firm in the underground world. He still had the confidence to face off against an ordinary expert alone. Clap, clap, clap. Vulture clapped his hands lightly as he walked out from the darkness. His face was full of praise. Amazing, amazing. You can even think of such a hidden place. Amazing, really amazing. Vulture did not intend to continue hiding anything. His purpose was very clear, and there was no need to beat around the bush. I've lived for so long and can be considered to have traveled extensively. I've seen a lot of the world, but I really didn't expect that the Zixahoya tribe really existed in this world. Since the heavens have given me this opportunity, of course I won't miss it. Cho Yun's expression changed. This guy actually knew everything. What exactly went wrong? Other than Su Yun, Ruan Qingshuang, and the two of them, no one else knew about this matter. No. There was one more person. Cho Yun clearly remembered that Su Yun said that he would talk to Wen Xiao alone at night about this problem. If he felt that Wen Xiao was not reliable, then even if he got back the paboyu, he would cancel his previous decision. In other words, Wen Xiao might know about her and Guagua coming to Suang to get the paboyu. That's right. Only Wen Xiao was suspicious. What did you say? Why don't we understand at all? Guagua, this little girl, was indeed quick-witted. She immediately pretended that she didn't know anything. You're the tomb keeper? And a tomb raider? Oh, I know, you're the legendary tomb raider. What's your relationship with Wu Xia? What's your relationship with little brother Zhang? No. Looking at your appearance, you should be related to Fatty Wang, right? Vulture had never read any tomb raiding novels, so he did not know what this little girl was talking about. Little girl, don't pretend. You know better than anyone what I want. It's a pity that you won't get anything. Cho Yun coldly pulled Guagua behind her. You're related to Wen Xiao. Vulture was stunned. Yes, Wen Xiao. When he was abroad, everyone called that guy One Eye, so much so that he almost forgot his name. It seems that your relationship with One Eye is quite good. Yes, I have a relationship with One Eye, but is there a need to talk about this now? Cho Yun snorted heavily. Of course there's a need. Since that guy doesn't know how to appreciate favors, he can't blame us for not being benevolent. Tisk tsk. It seems that this beauty is very confident. Vulture laughed. It's a pity that sometimes, excessive confidence will turn into overestimation of one's abilities. Although my relationship with One Eye is not so good, why do I want to help him when I hear that you want to deal with him? Beauty, I'm afraid that you won't have a chance to find that useless person. Today your opponent is me. Cho Yun had already made comprehensive preparations. Of course I know that my opponent is you. Since you know everything, then you must disappear from this world. Violent Fox Venerable was a name that had long been known in the underground world, but now Cho Yun could not remember when was the last time she killed someone. A pair of hands that were no longer stained with blood met an armed mercenary leader, who was used to killing. It was really needless to say who would be more ferocious in the fight. If you want me to disappear from this world, then I'm afraid you really need to show some ability, Bald Vulture sneered. Let me see just how much power you have to be able to convince those fellows to let you escort such a precious little girl. Go run. Find a way to return to Qingdao. This time, Chou Yun let Guoguo leave by herself. She was no longer as worried as before. Now Guoguo was completely capable of taking care of herself. The person opposite her had a strong murderous aura. Chou Yun was somewhat worried that she was not a match for him, but she believed that she had enough strength to stall him, and by time for Guoguo to escape. This was the most appropriate and safest way. At least, Guoguo would not fall into the hands of evil people. Guoguo was a little reluctant, but she also knew clearly that if she stayed, she would only distract Chou Yun and would not be of any help. If she escaped, she could affect the opponent's mind and make him anxious. In a sense, she could also help Chou Yun. Thinking of this, Guoguo quickly ran down the stone steps of the cemetery without looking back. Chapter 1769. Seeing Guoguo running away from the cemetery, Vulture's heart was burning with anxiety. One must know that Guoguo, who had obtained Paboyu, was the world's most delicious and tender lamb in Vulture's eyes. Vulture himself was the world's hungriest wolf. How could he watch the little lamb slip away in front of his eyes? Helplessly, in this cemetery, not only was there a ferocious wolf and a cute little lamb, there was also a little lamb's guardian. Chou Yun used her own body to block Vulture's path of pursuit. Your opponent is me. Think about how you can save your own life first. As she spoke, Chou Yun had already made her move. A cold light shot out from Chou Yun's sleeves. Several sharp hidden weapons were aimed at Vulture's face. In order to protect Guoguo's safety, Chou Yun would definitely do anything, even if it meant risking her own life. Today, in front of Feng Qiansui's tombstone, she would not let anyone hurt Guoguo. This was her mission, her duty. This was something she had to uphold. Vulture really did not expect his opponent to be so ruthless. If not for his quick reaction, he would have been hit. It was all that little girl's fault. She ran so fast and took away his heart. No, if he only thought about Guoguo and that Paboyu, he would be distracted. He needed to focus on facing Chou Yun. Only then could he end the battle quickly. Since you're so eager to die, I'll give you a quick death. Vulture dodged Chou Yun's hidden weapons and attacked Chou Yun's abdomen. At this time, Vulture's wrist suddenly stretched out a few sharp claws and directly covered the back of his hand. This was Vulture's weapon. The eagle-like claws could easily tear through the skin of any animal and directly pull out the internal organs. With these sharp claws, Vulture did not know how many people's stomachs he had penetrated. His fierce attack was so fast that it was difficult for an ordinary person to dodge even if they noticed it. Chou Yun faced such a fierce attack, she could only retreat. The cemetery's ground was paved with bluestone. It was uneven and in the middle of the night. It was dark as far as the eye could see. If one was not careful and tripped, it could lead to a fatal mistake. Therefore, under Vulture's fierce attacks, Chou Yun was unable to retreat even if she wanted to. The excessive psychological pressure also made her tired. Fortunately, Chou Yun was also known for her speed and agility, so although Vulture's attack was fierce, it did not have the effect he expected. No matter how powerful and sharp his Vajra claws were, if he couldn't even touch his opponent, it would all be in vain. Hence, Vulture's top priority was to find Chou Yun's weakness. Even if he could not kill her in one blow, as long as he used his claws, he could at least injure her severely enough that she could no longer stop him. Vulture, who had changed his strategy, suddenly stopped his attack and turned around to shake Chou Yun off. Chou Yun was shocked. She was worried that Vulture would go after Guoguo. Just as Vulture turned around to shake Chou Yun off, Vulture's back exposed a weakness. The anxious Chou Yun did not hesitate to attack. She did not think too much about it. When experts of this level were fighting, such a low-level mistake would definitely not be made. A weakness in the back was fatal to anyone. Hence, a person who had dealt with death on the battlefield all year round would definitely not make such a low-level mistake. Vulture had purposely exposed this weakness. He wanted to lure Chou Yun to attack him. If Chou Yun only focused on defending, he would need a certain amount of time to break through her defense. And in this period of time, it would be enough for Guogua to disappear without a trace. If it was daytime, he would not be afraid. However, in the middle of the night, he could not even see the road clearly. In such an unfamiliar city, it was indeed difficult for him to catch the child immediately. Moreover, there was another factor that was disadvantageous to him. Guogua was a child born in this city. Even if she was not familiar with this area, she would definitely know more than him. Once they started playing a game of hide-and-seek, it would really take up too much of his time. They were here to look for Paboyu. Once they got the jade, they would definitely return as soon as possible. If they did not return to Guqin Island within 2 days, the people on Guqin Island would definitely realize that something was wrong. By then, once reinforcements arrived, it would be even more troublesome for Vulture. Hence, Vulture had to end the battle quickly. Even if he exposed such a dangerous weakness, he still had to lure his opponent to attack him. As expected, the anxious Cho Yun lost her usual calmness. Faced with such an obvious weakness, she fell into his trap. The moment she was about to attack, she also realized this. However, it was still a little too late. Vulture took the opportunity to turn around and swipe his claws. He could easily tear Cho Yun's chest. He would kill her immediately. Faced with such a ferocious attack, Cho Yun almost used all her strength to force herself to stop. However, she still could not avoid being injured. In this situation, Cho Yun could only raise her arms and use the skin and flesh of her arms to withstand the attack. The sharp claws tore Cho Yun's arms. Scarlet blood instantly flowed all over Cho Yun's hands. The tearing pain was unbearable for Cho Yun. However, she could not avoid it. She had to stand in front of this person. Vulture was a little surprised. He had thought that Cho Yun, who had suffered such an injury, would immediately flee. After all, she would not be a threat to him even if she stayed behind. However, she was still standing in front of him. This woman was not simple at all. You really are a lunatic. A lunatic who is even crazier than me. Vulture sneered. Even if he did not attack now, just the bleeding was enough to weaken Cho Yun. It seems that you want to take it all for yourself. But that's not right. Looking at your relationship with the little girl, if you wanted this power, you would have gotten it long ago, right? At this moment, Vulture was a little shaken. He began to doubt the power of the Zikihoa tribe and the Pobo Jade. Because if this woman in front of him was so intimate with the Zikihoa little girl who possessed the Pobo Jade, her strength would definitely be more than that. Unless she was not affected by this mysterious power. No, that was impossible. Could it be that this Zikihoa little girl was a fake? Then the Pobo Jade was a fake? Vulture did not know that Cho Yun had consumed a medicine that Feng Qiansui had given her. It allowed Cho Yun to not be affected by Guogua, and increase her strength rapidly. He had done so in order not to reveal the secret of Guogua's identity. It seems that everything you've done is in vain, isn't it? Cho Yun sneered and mocked Vulture's self-doubt. No. Impossible. Vulture shook his head frantically. If this is fake, why did you risk your life to protect it? I don't believe it, I definitely don't believe it. Even if this is fake, I have already done it and I will continue to do it. If I can't make the judgment myself, I won't believe anyone else. Cho Yun was in a daze due to the excessive blood loss. She only hoped that Guogua could run as far away as possible. She could not let this person catch her. At this moment, the sound of the battle seemed to have alerted the Tombkeeper. A beam of light danced in the night sky. The Tombkeeper roared, "Who's there?" Cho Yun could no longer hold on. The excessive blood loss caused her to faint. Vulture did not want to cause too much trouble. He hid in the darkness and avoided the Tombkeeper's light. He only wanted to find Guogua as soon as possible, and confirm if she was a real Zikihoa tribe member. He wanted to confirm if the Pobo Jade in her hand was the real deal. The reason was simple. The blood of a normal person would slide off the Pobo Jade, but the blood of a Zikihoa tribe member would be absorbed by the jade immediately. Moreover, the jade would not change color because of the blood. Chapter 1770. Guogua had no way of determining the difference in strength between Cho Yun and Vulture, so all she could do was run. She could not rely on anyone at a time like this. The distance between Qingdao and Suang was at least a few hundred kilometers. Even if she informed Su Yun would not be able to arrive at the scene immediately. Besides, Guogua did not dare to retrieve her phone from the car. She could not determine if Vulture had other accomplices hiding next to their car, waiting for her to appear. If there was such a possibility, Guogua would be walking right into a trap if she went to retrieve her phone. Guogua had no one to call for help near the cemetery. If there was really someone who could help her, it would probably be the neighbors, lying under the tombstones around the Feng family's cemetery. Obviously, that was even more impossible. Guogua knew that her identity had been exposed, so she could not trust anyone now. She could only trust herself. She had to hide alone until Su Yun found her. Guogua might still be very young and did not have the speed to run, but during her time in the Dragon Brigade, she had gained extraordinary endurance. She could keep running and running. After stumbling out of the cemetery, Guogua did not dare to go on the main road. If she appeared on the main road, she would be too obvious a target. At the end of the day, Guogua did all this because she could not determine the number of people on the other side. If Guogua was sure that there was only one person on the other side, she might have dared to do the opposite. Vulture's sense of smell was very sensitive. His judgment was also quite accurate. Of course, no matter what, he would first go to the car to make sure. After he did not see the Zixahoya girl, he resolutely chose to track and search on the small road. Just like that, although Guogua did not have the advantage in speed, she relied on her endurance to keep running into the distance. On the other hand, although Vulture was much faster than Guogua, he was unwilling to give up any corner that could possibly be hidden. Vulture searched every inch of the ground, giving Guogua enough time to run as far as possible. Choyun fell. In the pitch-black cemetery, even if the gravekeeper came out to patrol because of the strange sound, he did not go to this place due to his courage. The flashlight could not shine on Choyun, who was lying in a pool of blood. The tombstones flashed by under the light. Soon, the gravekeeper gave up on investigating this matter. He cursed a few times in a bad mood, then left with the flashlight in his hand. Although the gravekeeper's basic mentality was to not be afraid of any demons and ghosts, he still had some lingering fear if there was any movement in the cemetery in the middle of the cemetery. Even if he was a tombkeeper, his inner world could not be completely fearless. Fortunately, there shouldn't be any grave robbers in this cemetery. There shouldn't be any modern people who would throw gold, silver, jewels, and other valuables into the urn. Therefore, when the gravekeeper saw that there was no sound, he assumed that he had misheard and did not pursue the matter. Vulture's pursuit of Guogua continued. Guogua kept running as if her life depended on it. Soon, she arrived at a reservoir that was slightly famous in the Suang area. This reservoir was famous for its wild fish species. The water was clean and unpolluted, so the fish in the reservoir were quite delicious. On this warm day, there were naturally too many angling enthusiasts who came to fish at night. On the surface of the water around the reservoir, luminous fishing floats used for night fishing could be faintly seen. Every angling enthusiast was quietly staring at the luminous fishing floats in front of their fishing rods. Whenever a fishing float was swallowed with a whoosh, they would beautifully pull it back at the same time, causing those greedy fishes to directly take the bait. Speaking of which, fishing was actually quite cruel. Sometimes human entertainment was built on the pain of other species. Imagine if one day, all kinds of delicious pies and pastries fell from the sky. When you took a bite, a hook would break your mouth and directly lift you up. What kind of feeling would that be? In any case, Guogua felt that it was quite cruel. Therefore, even a fishing expert like Feng Qiansui would not bring Guogua along when he went fishing. Guogua had also never squatted in front of a fishing rod. Veteran fishing enthusiasts had another hobby when fishing for wild fish in this reservoir. That was to swing a row of fishing rods and buckle them onto the frame. As long as the bells on the fishing rods rang, it meant that a big fish had taken the bait. Therefore, it was normal for a person to sit in front of a dozen fishing rods. After running for more than 10 miles, Guogua did not feel any discomfort in her body. With her physical strength and endurance training during this period of time, running for another 10 miles would not be a problem. However, there was one thing that Guogua had to consider. The small path that she had just walked on was more winding. The person chasing her would stop and look for her at a place where she might be hiding. The road beside this reservoir could be said to be unobstructed at a glance. As long as she followed, she could conclude that there was no place to hide in the vicinity. In this way, the other party would not stay for too long and would catch up in a short time. Guagua knew that she was inferior in speed, so she had to be smart and find another way to resolve her current inferior position. Obviously, the row of fishing rods in front of her was a very good choice for Guagua. Guagua took off her shoes and threw them far away on the other side of the road. Then, she quietly walked down a slope and came to the side of a group of fishing enthusiasts around the reservoir. Ji Xiaolan had a poem that said, "A pole, a paddle, a leaf boat, a foot-long pole, an inch hook. A clap, a call, and a laugh. One person alone occupies a river of autumn." This was definitely a vivid portrayal of a fisherman who forgot about his feelings. Fishing was not only about the result of having fish. Whether or not there was a catch, it was completely a worldly possession. Fishing for mountains and waters was a kind of tranquil and detached state of mind. Fishing enthusiasts actually preferred to be in the midst of nature, to savor the tranquility, a kind of comfort, and a wisp of indifference. They wanted to comprehend the joy of the mountains and rivers. As for those who fished for the sake of fish, most of them were not true fishing enthusiasts. They just thought that they were. There were also true fishing enthusiasts and fake fishing enthusiasts among the night fishermen. However, there was one thing that they all had in common. They all fished to relax and indulge in the feeling of being carefree, surpassing that of immortals. Although sometimes, after a night of standing, sitting, walking by the reservoir, or wrestling with the fish, they would be tired to the point that their backs would ache and their limbs would be tired. However, the relaxation and tranquility of the heart could not be exchanged for anything. Therefore, without exception, the fishermen's thoughts were all on the floating fishing float. No one noticed that a little girl was secretly squatting on a row of fishing poles that they had propped up in the dead of night. In other words, as long as the bell on the pole in front of Guagua did not ring, Guagua could squat here for an entire night, and no one would notice her existence. In the eyes of a fisherman, the only world in their eyes was the fishing float and their empty hearts. Guagua's choice was a wise one. She played to her strengths and avoided her weaknesses. If she continued to escape, she could not ask for help from her pursuer. If her pursuer was not alone, she was not sure if she could still escape this distance. Moreover, she waited here for a while because she had hopes for Chou Yun. If the final victor was Chou Yun, she would not have to waste too much effort to find her. Obviously, even Guagua herself did not dare to believe this extravagant hope. If Chou Yun was really confident in her ability to fight against her pursuer, she would not have let her escape. Perhaps the moment Chou Yun made this decision, she had already realized that she was no match for the person in front of her. She only did this to buy enough time for Guagua. Chapter 1771. The large reservoir was exposed to the air without any shelter. It could be said that it was the most dangerous place along the way. However, Guagua had chosen such a dangerous place to hide from the pursuers, because the most dangerous place was often the safest place. Of course, this sentence was also relative. The safest place was also the most dangerous place. It was just that many people did not think of the reverse logic. In fact, it was all about the same place. In this place, Guagua had no other choice. According to the calculation of time, if Chou Yun was no match for the pursuers, it was only a matter of time before she was defeated. Guagua believed that staying here was the best reason for her to continue living. In the darkness of the night, it was impossible to see Guagua's figure from afar. Instead, the sparkling bobber became an even more eye-catching object. It made it easier for Guagua to hide in the night. Vulture, who had been chasing all the way, finally arrived at the reservoir. When he noticed that there were people around the reservoir, he tried his best to hide in the darkness. Perhaps this was also a professional habit. Vulture did not want to expose himself when he was on his mission. At this moment, someone's bait was so sweet and tempting that it directly caught a big fish. The fisherman stood up excitedly, the bell on his fishing rod ringing. Although the crisp sound of the bell was not loud, in this quiet night, it was enough to penetrate the silence of the night and raise everyone's spirits. Many fishermen stood up and looked over. Clearly, from the way the fisherman's fishing rod was deformed and his nervous expression while holding the rod, everyone knew that a big fish had taken the bait. This was such a refreshing moment. Everyone became excited. There were big fish in this reservoir. Many people had caught big anchovies that were more than 10 caddies. One had to know that anchovies were quite strong and would not be easily caught. It was very likely that the anchovies would break free from the hook and escape. Therefore, this hook, pull, and all kinds of escape were very particular. Fishing for big fish really required a bit of patience. Otherwise, one would definitely not be able to reap any benefits. Perhaps no one had caught such a big anchovy for the entire night. So everyone was looking forward to the lucky one who could bring it up. This fishing enthusiast did not disappoint, as he began to struggle with the anglerfish that had taken the bait. No one noticed that there was a child who was more nervous than any of them. Guagua was not nervous about the fish. She was nervous about being found out that she did not belong here. Once someone asked about her, she would be exposed if the tracker happened to bump into her. Therefore, Guagua kept praying in her heart that no one would notice her. Perhaps her prayers were really effective. When the fisherman lifted up a huge anchovy that looked like it weighed more than 5 kilograms, all the fishing enthusiasts focused their attention on that huge anchovy. All right, someone took the lead and shouted. Many people began to discuss this anchovy, exchanging which part of the fisherman's technique was good and which part was lacking. Some people even directly asked him what he used to mix the fish food. In an instant, the quiet reservoir became lively because of a huge anchovy that had taken the bait. The winner was grinning from ear to ear. This night was really too rewarding. He also kept thanking the others for their congratulations, and kept sharing his experience and insights. This anchovy is a carnivorous fish. I used live bait just now. It's best if it's fresh. I used a small fish that I caught just now as bait. This anchovy is not very big, but it's not small either. It's strong enough and not easy to deal with. I was really worried that my number 5 line was not strong enough. Mine is 6 grams of sequins. This fish is very sensitive. It's not easy to handle. I was just lucky. Lucky. Seeing how he was grinning from ear to ear, everyone knew that he really wanted to show off for a while. Just like that, everyone surrounded the anchovy and discussed it. Vulture, who was hiding in the shadows, was not in the mood to listen. He looked around and saw that there was no place to hide. It was better to continue on their way. But at that moment, the owner of the fishing rod in front of Guagua noticed her. He looked at Guagua in confusion and asked, "Girl, whose family are you from? You're fishing with your father at such a young age." Originally, the fisherman wanted to talk to the person next to him about his experience with anchovy, but when he turned around, he saw a little girl squatting in front of his row of fishing rods. This question caused Vulture's eyes to light up in the darkness. This lass was really quick-witted. She actually hid herself in a group of night fishers. Guagua felt that her head was about to explode, but she had to agree. She could only helplessly point into the distance. "Uncle, my father is over there. I came over to take a look." "That. Don't talk. You'll scare your fish away." You know a lot, little girl. But how old are you? Are you 7 years old? It's not good for children to stay up late. This fisherman really liked to chat. Don't come with your father to fish at night in the future. Sleeping at night is the best time for children to grow. At this moment, Guagua even had the heart to cry. This uncle had even exposed her age. The pursuers must not appear at this time. Vulture had a sinister smile on his face. He would not appear at this time. If he appeared at this time, as long as the girl yelled, so many people fishing would definitely point their spears at him. Although Vulture didn't care about these people at all, and could even kill them in the reservoir in a short period of time, he didn't care. But he could not do that. If he caused such a big commotion, Huaxia would definitely start a full-scale manhunt for him. Once he was wanted, it would be really difficult for him to do anything. He still had to take this little girl and sneak out of the southeast border. As long as he stepped out of the border, no one would be able to shake Vulture's status as the king of the world. Just thinking about it made Vulture excited all over. Guogua was very flustered. She could only pretend that nothing had happened and prepared to change her position. She hoped that these uncles would continue to sit quietly by their fishing platforms after the excitement of the big anchored fish had subsided. They would no longer pay attention to her. But Guogua did not know that her identity had been exposed at this moment. Just like that, Vulture waited patiently in the darkness. Guogua also waited patiently in the darkness. Time passed by minute by minute. Guogua could not tell if there was any danger, but she believed that as long as she was patient enough, she would be able to avoid it. However, Guogua's opponent was Vulture, who was even more patient than her. In the face of such a huge temptation, Vulture knew that he could not act rashly. Success or failure depended on this one move. As long as he could withstand this temptation, he would definitely succeed in the end. Finally, after 3 hours of hiding, Vulture saw the light at the end of the tunnel. Seeing that the horizon in the east was about to turn white, Guogua felt that it was about time. She wanted to turn back and secretly check on the situation at the cemetery. Even though she was in danger, she was still worried about Cho Yun. When the night fishers began to put away their poles, Guogua quietly left the reservoir and stepped on the path back. She was completely unaware that a big net was waiting for her. Chapter 1772. Guogua was smart enough, but the opponent she was facing was too cunning. To borrow a phrase, it was not that the hunter was not smart enough, but the fox was too cunning. Guogua was still very careful on the way back. If the people who wanted to catch her had already chased after her, then she would have enough time to get to the car to get her phone. Then, she would tell Su Yun about their current situation, and think of a way to find a safe place to wait for rescue. Vulture, on the other hand, followed Guogua all the way back to the parking lot of the cemetery. In his opinion, there was no safer place than the parking lot of the cemetery. After all, the early morning was still shrouded in darkness, and the light of dawn had yet to rise from the eastern horizon. In a place like the cemetery, no one would choose to worship their ancestors at this time. Guogua walked very fast all the way back. She really felt that her little heart was about to jump out of her chest. Before the sun rose, she finally arrived at the cemetery parking lot. The car was still in the parking lot, and there was no sign of it being moved at all. Guogua did not know if this was good news for her. It proved that she had a chance, but it also seemed to prove that Cho Yun was most likely dead. All these thoughts made Guogua very uneasy. She wanted to get rid of the current unfavorable situation as soon as possible. Guogua quietly came to the parking lot and took out a special tool that looked like a military knife from her pocket. In fact, it was not a key, but a high-tech tool developed not long ago by the scientific and technological genius Matthew, who was brought to the Dragon Brigade by Su Yun. This thing contained a material that could quickly solidify. When this thing was placed in the keyhole of a car and pressed a switch, the material that had not yet solidified would quickly merge into the keyhole of the car. Then, according to the internal structure of the car lock, it could become a key that could open the car door. At the same time, this high-tech tool could also use the internal electric current system to destroy the car's internal alarm system. Even if the key did not match the car's own password, it could still prevent the car's alarm from sounding. Of course, this thing had not been fully developed yet, so it could not quickly decipher the code of the car engine alarm. Therefore, this thing could open the car door, but if the key was used to start the engine, the car would still alarm. Guogua just came to the car to get her phone, so she didn't worry about calling the police at all. Guogua carefully opened the car door and got in. She quickly opened her backpack. In the future, she would never not carry these things with her. It was mainly because she and Cho Yun had considered that no one would call at this time of the day. Moreover, it was inconvenient to bring things to the cemetery. It was full of dirt and they had to dig the grave, so it was too troublesome. Therefore, they threw it in the car and caused more trouble for themselves. Just when Guogua finally found the phone, a gust of cold wind blew behind her. Then someone got into the car. Guogua's head buzzed at that moment. She thought to herself, I'm done for. Guo, didn't I ask you to run? Cho Yun's weak voice came. Guogua was so excited that she almost jumped up. This was definitely the most beautiful voice she had ever heard in her life. This voice was simply from the sound of nature. Sister Cho Yun. Guogua stared at Cho Yun with her eyes wide open. She really felt that everything was so incredible. But soon Guogua fell into shock. She saw that Cho Yun was covered in blood. The smell of blood made Guogua a little overwhelmed. Now, it was not an exaggeration to describe Cho Yun as a bloody person. She was really a bloody person. In the side pocket of the yellow backpack, there is a small red medicine bottle. Help me take it out. Cho Yun's breathing was already very weak. It was really incredible that she could wake up after losing so much blood and drag her weak feet to the parking lot. But Cho Yun could do it. It was not for anything else but for Guogua. She could not just admit defeat. She could not just throw her life away in the Feng family's cemetery. If old Qiansui saw this from heaven, he would definitely scold her. Relying on this willpower and strength, Cho Yun forced herself to wake up. Relying on her own willpower, she walked step by step to the side of the parking lot. Relying on her own willpower, she decided to save herself and rejoined the battle. These medicine were all prepared for them by Su Yun. The red medicine bottle contained the heaven fragrance ointment, the yellow bone pill, and all kinds of emergency medicine. Fortunately, the heaven fragrance ointment could quickly stop the bleeding and heal the wound. But that kind of pain was something that Cho Yun had to grit her teeth to endure. After applying the heaven fragrance ointment, Cho Yun took a few blood energy pills. Although the medicine was magical and could not quickly replenish the blood she had lost, it was enough to give her the strength to support her body. Guogua, you shouldn't have come back. Cho Yun said. I asked you to run because it's really not safe here. We have to leave now immediately. Guogua nodded. But could Cho Yun really drive in her current state? She was very worried, but she could not drive. However, all this good luck came to an abrupt end. Vulture appeared. He was very surprised that the woman still had the strength to walk here after being scratched by his steel claws. It really made him feel very incredulous. I'm afraid none of you will be able to leave. Vulture's cold voice came from outside the car. He opened the car door and directly pushed Cho Yun in. He reached out and grabbed Guogua's collar and pulled Guogua out. Before Guogua could make a sound, he grabbed Guogua's throat and controlled her vocal cords. Although Cho Yun wanted to resist, she was powerless to do so. In her current state, it was already fortunate that she was able to remain conscious. Beauty, you know my goal very well. I'll give Wen Xiao face and not touch you. But if you still want to resist, then don't blame me for being impolite. Vulture said. I only need to move my finger, and this little girl will go to hell. Of course, Cho Yun did not dare to gamble with Guogua's safety. She looked at Vulture calmly and did not say a word. It was as if to tell him that she had acquiesced to his conditions and would not resist anymore. Vulture nodded in satisfaction and looked at Guogua again. Little girl, I can see that you have a very good relationship with your beautiful sister. If you don't want her to die, then you better not have any wicked ideas. I won't hesitate to kill her. Do you understand what I mean? Guogua nodded and seemed to accept Vulture's threat very obediently. But why do I feel that you have more wicked ideas? Vulture sneered. You pretended to be a fisherman next to the reservoir to avoid my pursuit. If that uncle had not spoken to you and attracted my attention, I might have really missed you. Guogua cursed in her heart. It was all because of the big mullet that was caught. Otherwise, those night fishermen would not have been so talkative and no one would have noticed her existence. Sigh, it seemed that this was destined. Guogua could not escape even if she wanted to. But let me tell you, I'm a person with zero tolerance. Vulture said. As long as you are not willing to cooperate with me, she will die. It's that simple. Do you understand? Guogua nodded again. At this time, Vulture released his hands that were pinching Guogua's vocal cords. After instantly feeling her throat relax, Guogua took a few deep breaths. Her mind was spinning. What should she do now? How could she escape from this person's evil clutches? How could she ensure Sister Cho Yun's safety? These were all the thoughts in Guogua's mind. Chapter 1773. Even in such a passive situation, Cho Yun still secretly gave Guogua a look, telling Guogua to escape. Seize the opportunity to escape. However, Guogua could not do that anymore. If she escaped again, Cho Yun would have to risk her life to stop this fellow in front of her. Guogua could not accept the fact that she knew Cho Yun would die, and she had to escape. She could not accept it. Little girl, I will not talk nonsense with you. Hand over the paboyu. I want to confirm your identity. Vulture said. If you are fake and made me come here for nothing, I will not let you live for even a second longer. So you better not be lying to me. I am a very petty person. Guogua was stunned. Paboyu. What should I do? I was only thinking about running for my life just now and completely forgot about the paboyu. As she said that, she turned her pockets inside out. There was nothing. Vulture stared at Guogua's empty pockets, his eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets. How could such an important thing be lost just like that? However, if he put himself in her shoes, a little girl would only care about running for her life after being frightened. How could she have the mind to care about other things? Vulture slapped him on the head. What the hell should he do now? Cho Yun was also shocked. This paboyu was something very important to Guogua. It was passed down to her by her mother. Was it really lost? Wouldn't that mean that Guogua would lose her last bit of concern? No. This could not be. If such an important thing like the paboyu was really lost, this matter would be really troublesome. Guogua shrugged her shoulders helplessly. I am really not lying to you. If the paboyu was with me, do you think I would joke around with my life? Besides, we do not even have the ability to resist. If the paboyu was with me, how could I dare to hide it? Besides, that jade is as big as my fist, there's nowhere to hide it. If you don't believe me, you can search for it yourself. I really lost it. Vulture wanted to give himself a few tight slaps. It was all his fault for chasing after her so closely. If he hadn't forced her to be so anxious, perhaps she wouldn't have lost the jade. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that he was the one who had messed up. Vulture's heart was filled with hatred. He was so angry that his teeth were itching. Cho Yun was also scared. Such an important thing. How could you lose it? Yeah. Vulture suddenly felt that Cho Yun was his confidant. Do you know what paboyu means? My little grandma. I beg you to think about where you lost it. Guogua shrugged her shoulders. It can only be because I ran all the way here. Otherwise, why would I throw it into the reservoir? Vulture's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Water, reservoir. That reservoir was so big. If it was lost in there, how could he find it? He had seen such a big fish fall out with his own eyes. Perhaps there were even bigger fish in the reservoir. What if it was swallowed by the fish? He couldn't possibly open the stomachs of every fish to look for it. No. Even if that was the case, Vulture had to find the paboyu. Cho Yun was also burning with anxiety. However, at this moment, she saw Guogua's face inadvertently reveal a sly smile. She suddenly realized that this smart little girl, how could she lose such an important thing? She must have hidden it somewhere. Guogua naturally wouldn't be so stupid to lose such an important paboyu. Not to mention that this was the only thing left by her mother. This was also something that Su Yin needed very much. It could help Wen Xiao. Therefore, Guogua couldn't be so careless. In fact, when Vulture first appeared in the cemetery, Guogua seemed to be hiding behind Cho Yun timidly. In fact, she wanted to make use of Cho Yun's block, so that she could throw the jade back next to the urn in the tomb. She also secretly used her feet to fill up the hole. Vulture didn't see the whole process. Even Cho Yun didn't know that Guogua was doing a series of little tricks behind her. Guogua knew the importance of the paboyu too well. Therefore, she made a prompt choice and judgment. She had to ensure the safety of the paboyu first. Just as Vulture was getting excited over his success, Guogua had already settled everything. She was absolutely sure that Vulture would never guess that she would bury the thing that she had just dug out. This was called the most dangerous place, but also the safest place. Now follow me to find it immediately. If you can't find it, all of you will die. Vulture said in exasperation. If I die, I'm afraid that it's meaningless for you to find the jade, right? Guogua asked in return. So you better stop threatening me. You won't do something that doesn't benefit you at all. Vulture was speechless at this sharp-tongued little girl. I won't kill you, but I can kill her. I can crush her to death in a matter of minutes. If anything happens to my sister, even if you kill me, I won't cooperate with you. Guogua was also very determined. Humph, do you think I will believe you? Will you die with her? Vulture said disdainfully. As long as you are alive, you are useful to me. Of course I dare to do that. If you don't believe me, then let's take a gamble. But you know what the stakes are. Guogua said disapprovingly. So you don't dare to take the gamble. Vulture was actually speechless. It's meaningless for you to say anything now, and it's meaningless to threaten anyone, Guogua said. If we can't find Paboyu, you have nothing, and I am nothing. What is the most important thing now? I hope you can understand this, otherwise, there is really no point for me to play with you like this. It's too boring. Vulture took a deep breath. Yes, find Paboyu. As long as you cooperate, I won't do anything to you, but if you play tricks, I won't let you live. We are both, I said that, right? And that's right. Now we are allies. We have to find Paboyu. Without Paboyu, everything is in vain. Guogua nodded, she thought. Your great aunt is playing tricks right now, what can you do? Cho Yun knew that in terms of playing tricks, if they really fought, she might not be as good as Guogua. The current situation really needed Guogua to control. If Guogua could control the situation well, maybe this matter could really be improved. Some things always made people speechless, and some things always made people helpless. Guogua was able to turn the situation around in an instant. She actually relied on the hidden lines from before. If there was no hidden jade in the beginning, it would be meaningless to say anything now. In order to find the jade, Vulture had to bring the two of them to his car, and tie Cho Yun to the back seat of the car with a rope. Cho Yun did not have the strength to resist him. She could only be at his mercy. After that, Vulture drove on a small road, and every 2 miles he would get out of the car with Guogua to search. In the car, Cho Yun's mouth was sealed, so she could not shout and could only wait. But now, what Cho Yun had to do was wait. Wait for her body to slowly recover. Su Yun's miraculous elixirs were still very effective. She believed that as long as the time was right, she might be able to give Vulture a surprise attack and turn defeat into victory. Guogua and Vulture seriously searched every inch of land. The expression on her face sometimes surprised, sometimes sad, sometimes annoyed, and sometimes helpless. Such a good seedling. If she did not go to Beijing Film Academy to be a campus belle, it would be a waste of talent. Chapter 1774. At this moment, Vulture's heart was burning with anxiety. He wished he could have eyes all over his body. He wished he could turn into the second brother of the Vajragord brothers, and see through 1,000 miles with a single glance. To Vulture, this feeling of anxiety was definitely the greatest torture of his life. To someone who wanted to obtain it, there was nothing more vexing than spoils of war slipping away in front of their eyes. A piece of Pobo jade was Vulture's only hope. If Vulture couldn't find it today, he would probably fly into a rage out of humiliation. However, how could this rage compare to vexation? After all, his ambition wouldn't allow him to do anything irrational to Guogua. If he wanted to have enough power to conquer the world, he couldn't do without the Zikijoa tribe and Pobo jade. In this world, there might be other Pobo jades other than this piece of Pobo jade that could be obtained at a high price. However, it would be hard to find another Zikijoa tribe member. It wasn't that there weren't any Zikijoa tribe members in this world, but even if there were, they would hide their identities and live quietly in a corner of society. Huaxia had a population of over 1 billion, and the world had a population of 5 to 6 billion. Vulture didn't have the ability to search for them one by one. Moreover, there were bound to be people around these Zikijoa tribe members who helped him hide his identity. For example, Guogua's people were all top experts. If it wasn't for Wen Xiao needing a piece of Pobo jade, Guogua's identity wouldn't have been exposed. Although this kind of once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was not unprecedented, it was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If Vulture couldn't catch it, he wouldn't have the mood to live in this world for the rest of his life. Paboyu, Paboyu, where will you be thrown to? Vulture's face was filled with doubt. He couldn't stop his footsteps on the road to find the jade. Apart from searching for Pobo jade, Vulture also had to be on guard against Guagua's escape. It was really tiring. More importantly, this little girl from the Zixahoya tribe was always so flustered. Found it. I saw wrong, it's not. Wow. Hard work pays off. Bah, why do you look so much like my jade? Vulture's heart was about to jump out of his chest. Moreover, Guagua had a good grasp of the rhythm. Every time Vulture looked forward to it, she would tell him a lie and bring him endless hope. Just as Vulture's hope ignited the flame in his heart, Guagua would immediately pour a bucket of cold water over him. Vulture's heart couldn't take the blow any longer. It felt like a knife was being stabbed in and pulled out again and again. If a person's mind and spirit were to be tortured, it would definitely be more unbearable than physical torture. Guagua was using her clever little brain to torture Vulture's mind and soul. However, Vulture was completely unaware of it because he had placed all his thoughts on the Pobo jade and could not think about anything normally. Where the hell are you going to throw the jade? Vulture was finally enraged. He had been searching for almost 10 miles, but he hadn't even seen a single jade feather. Other than broken rocks, there was only broken rocks. The sky was already bright, but they still hadn't found anything. Guagua also said with a bitter face, "How would I know? Do you think I wanted to throw it away? I didn't want to either. Do you know how important that thing is to me? If you hadn't been chasing me in the middle of the night, I wouldn't have lost it. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself. If I wanted to run away, I would definitely be scared. How would I care about losing it?" Vulture really wanted to slap himself. Yes, it was his fault. It was all his fault for losing track of the Pobo jade. He really couldn't live such a life. It was supposed to be the most beautiful morning of his life, but he had ruined it by himself? The vexed Vulture didn't say anything and continued to search with Guagua. They found the reservoir, but still didn't find anything. Vulture stood where Guagua was pretending to be a fisherman and looked at the ripples in the reservoir. "Little girl, tell me the truth. Did you throw the jade into the reservoir?" Guagua shrugged and spread out her hands helplessly. "Use your brain and think about it. Would I throw something so important into the reservoir? Don't tell me you wouldn't." Vulture sneered. "If you throw the Pobo jade into the reservoir, you still have a chance. Even if you drain the reservoir and dig up all the sand, you still have a chance to get it. If it falls into my hands, it's equivalent to never being able to return. If I were you, I might really throw it in. I'm not that stupid." Guagua shook her head. Vulture didn't believe that she was stupid. "It's because you're not stupid. You're too smart. That's why you could do such a thing." Guagua was a little speechless. How could an ordinary person understand her wit? She had already thrown the jade under the tombstone and buried it with soil. Compared to throwing it into the reservoir, wasn't that smarter? Looking for a piece of Pobo jade in such a huge reservoir was really like looking for a needle in a haystack. "Little girl, let me tell you, nothing can stop me from looking for the Pobo jade. Today, even if I have to look for a needle in a haystack, I will find this Pobo jade in the reservoir," Vulture said. Because Guagua's footsteps stopped here, it was impossible for there to be another piece of jade in front of her. This was the end. "Are you serious? You're really stupid. I won't throw the jade into the water," Guagua said. "When I was in the reservoir, I didn't know that you had already discovered me. You'd better not waste your energy. You won't find anything even if you go down to look for it." The more Guagua said this, the more Vulture felt that she was guilty. If there really wasn't any jade in the reservoir, as an enemy, she would definitely want him to go down to the reservoir to look for it. Wouldn't it be very satisfying to see that his efforts were in vain? However, Guagua said that it would be a waste of energy if he went down. Obviously, she didn't want him to go down to the reservoir. The more this little girl didn't want him to do something, the more Vulture felt that there was a problem. No, he had to go down to the reservoir. However, before Vulture could make a decision, sirens and the sound of cars rushing over came from the national highway, less than a kilometer away from the reservoir. Obviously, there were police cars rushing over. Vulture covered Guogua's mouth. He suddenly thought of a problem. Yesterday he had injured Cho Yun, so there must be blood at the cemetery. It was already working hours. The gravekeeper must have gone to the cemetery early in the morning and called the police when he saw the blood stains in the cemetery. Vulture wasn't afraid of the police, but he didn't want to get into such big trouble. Huaxia was the country that he didn't want to get into trouble with the most. Once he was targeted, it was basically impossible to escape. If the ordinary police couldn't do it, there were the criminal police. If the criminal police couldn't do it, there were the key case investigation team. If the key case investigation team couldn't do it, there were the special forces. Anyway, if he got into trouble, Vulture would be in trouble. Vulture didn't care so much. He needed to quickly get Guogua back to the car, and then leave with Guogua and Cho Yun. If Paboyu was in the reservoir, he wouldn't have gone anywhere else. He could choose a good time to come back. But now, the first thing he had to do was to avoid the police. If he couldn't even avoid a few police officers, then he could only think about other things in the future. It was impossible for him to take the next step. Chapter 1775. Obviously, the problems in the cemetery would definitely attract the attention of the police. There was no doubt about that. Vulture had not considered that before, because he had focused all his attention on finding Paboyu. He thought that he could find Paboyu and leave before dawn. There was no need to waste so much time staying in this damned place. However, after dawn, the gravekeeper walked around the cemetery according to his usual habit. This was his job and his responsibility. It was also a way for him to not be afraid in the middle of the night. He was too used to this place. He knew whether it was old Zhang or old Li lying under each tombstone. He also knew how many people slept in each cemetery, so he was really not afraid of this place. He had never imagined that something would crawl out from under the tombstones. People in this line of work must never have such thoughts of fear. They must be the absolute backbone of atheism. Otherwise, they would definitely be scared to death in this line of work. However, the gravekeeper, who had never believed in gods and ghosts in his life, was completely frightened today. He walked alone on the path of the cemetery, thinking about one thing in his heart. If he could no longer work in this line of work in the future and retired home, would he still miss this place very much? Maybe he would really miss it. But these things were for the future. No matter how much he thought about it now, it was useless. Maybe in 1 or 2 years he might be fired. This was something he could not predict. If that day came, he would definitely wipe all the tombstones and say goodbye to these old neighbors who had spent every day and night with him. Just as the gravekeeper was thinking about this matter, he suddenly saw the soil under a tombstone being turned over. Dark red blood had soaked the soil, emitting a dirty black color. The blood seeped into the ground and extended all the way from under the tombstone to the stone steps. There was a bloody mark on every step. The gravekeeper's head buzzed, and he quickly broke out in a cold sweat. He was scared. Of course he was scared. No matter who saw this scene, there was only one image that could come to mind. Someone crawled out of the grave, and then the blood was no. The tombkeeper quickly interrupted his thoughts, but he could not erase the image from his mind. He was really scared out of his wits. As someone who had been with the cemetery for more than 10 years, he was really scared. The gravekeeper almost rolled and crawled away from the scene. As he ran, he called the police. What the hell was going on? Finally, the police arrived at the scene as soon as possible. Seeing so many people, the gravekeeper dared to bring people to the bloody tombstone again. The people's police were not afraid of any evil spirits. They swaggered and followed the tombkeeper to the scene. Very soon, everyone arrived at the scene. When they saw this strange scene, all of their hairs stood up. Wasn't this too strange? What the hell is going on? The middle-aged policeman leading the team asked with wide eyes. Tombkeeper said with a look of fear, I don't know either. I came early in the morning and saw this place become like this. Could it be that there are really ghosts in this world? This is a person crawling out from inside? He came back from the dead? Even the tombkeeper said something like that. How could it not be creepy? Anyone would be creeped out. This was too unbelievable. But no matter how unbelievable it was, as the people's police, they could not believe it. Bullshit. Coming back from the dead is an American movie. That's impossible. A person crawled out? Why don't you use your brain and think about it? What's buried here are ashes. Can they crawl out? Even if the ashes crawl out, there can't be blood. That's right. The tomb keeper slapped his forehead. He was scared out of his wits early in the morning. That was right. These were all ashes. How could there be blood in the ashes? Bone ashes were bone ashes, and there was only ash. Thinking of this, the tomb keeper felt much more relaxed. But how could he explain this? How could he explain the blood? There were no wild animals in this place. No one would appear at night either. Suddenly, the tomb keeper thought of some strange sounds he heard last night. Could it be that there was a ghost in it? Feng Minghua. Captain, look. This tombstone is Feng Minghua's. A few years ago, Suhong's de Qiansui. A young policeman suddenly said, "Do you think people with power, wealth, and status like them don't like cremation and prefer burial? So, they found a way to bury them here?" The captain of the police team kicked him. "Don't bullshit here. If you say so, this really is a person crawling out from the cemetery? Bullsh *T, F *CK off. Even if Feng Minghua didn't get burned, he wouldn't be able to crawl out. Furthermore, he was definitely cremated." "Captain, how do you know?" Someone could not help but interrupt and ask. The middle-aged policeman was taken aback. "Anyway, I know that we have to support the cremation now. What happened to Feng Minghua back then is still a secret. But if he still had power, the Feng family wouldn't have been ruined, right? Don't pry. We're here to work." In any case, the middle-aged policeman did not believe that this place was haunted. Something must have happened. Someone was injured here. Hurry up and collect the evidence at the scene for me. Don't leave out the details. Mobilize your brains for me. We can't say that we can't solve such a small matter, and let the criminal police team take all the credit. We have to solve this matter personally today. The middle-aged policeman looked very confident. However, confidence was not enough. After all, they were just policemen. They could solve civil matters. However, this matter had already seen blood. It was obviously related to a criminal case. However, the middle-aged policeman, who was eager for credit, decided to use the civil case method to settle this matter. If they could get involved in a criminal case, wouldn't that steal a lot of the limelight? This year was his last chance to be promoted and skip a grade. Seeing the police officers begin to collect evidence, the middle-aged policeman couldn't sit still anymore. He followed the blood all the way. Although the blood was getting blurry, he could still see it clearly. Just like that, he followed the intermittent blood drops all the way to the parking lot. The parking lot was empty except for a Buick business car with a Qingdao license plate. This was the car that Chou Yun drove Guogua to Suang. Before Chou Yun got into the car, she really had almost no blood left to bleed. However, the blood-stained guide on the car door still attracted the attention of the middle-aged policeman, who was working seriously. His eyes lit up. He knew that he must have made a major discovery. This car and the blood under the tombstone must be inextricably linked. If he wanted to thoroughly investigate this matter, he was afraid that he really had to start with this car. Originally, this car was bought by Ruan Qingshuang when she was in Hudong. When she arrived in Xinjiang, she did not change the license plate. Later, after she transferred to Qingdao, this car was left in the film and television base square of Qingdao for Chou Yun to use. For convenience, she changed the license plate of Qingdao. This license plate was changed not long ago, but it became an important clue. The middle-aged officer suddenly realized that things were not as simple as he thought. After some consideration, he decided to focus on the bigger picture and gave up on the idea of taking the credit for himself. He quickly reported the incident to the higher-ups, hoping that the higher-ups could get in touch with the Qingdao police and work together to solve this case that he had no idea how big it was going to be. Chapter 1776. Chou Yun and Guoguo were gone for 2 days. Just when Su Yin was starting to get a little worried and wanted to call to ask about it, he received a call from Chen Wei. He asked him to come to his office as soon as possible because he had something very important to discuss with him. Su-Yun knew that Chin-Wei wouldn't casually talk about how important something was. Since he said it, then there must be something very important that he needed to go to. This matter was also very likely to be related to him. Otherwise, Chin-Wei wouldn't be so anxious. Su-Yun could only temporarily put aside these messy thoughts in his mind and rush to Chin-Wei's office as soon as possible. Chin-Wei was sitting in front of his desk with a serious face, and the captain of the criminal police unit and the people of the key case investigation unit standing behind him also looked serious, as if they had just received some instructions. Chief Chen. Because the door of the office was slightly ajar, Su-Yun pushed the door open after knocking on it. She stuck half of her shoulder out and saw that Chin-Wei was not alone in the office. Su-Yun probed with a voice that was neither too loud nor too soft. After hearing Su-Yun's voice, Chin-Wei was immediately energized. Su-Yun, come in quickly. Come in quickly. After saying that, he waved his hand and said to the others around him, "You all can leave first. If there is any arrangement, I will inform you immediately. You all have to put in 100% effort to solve this problem. Do you all understand?" Understood, Chief Chen. As long as there is any task order, we promise to complete the task. Everyone promised Chin-Wei confidently. They had already begun to adapt to Chin-Wei's iron fist, so they took their work more seriously and lived up to their power and responsibilities. After everyone left, Su-Yun walked to Chin-Wei. "Chief Chen, why did you call me in such a hurry? What happened? Just now, this was... Come and look at this." Chin-Wei interrupted Su-Yun's words and pointed to his computer screen. "Look at this. Are you familiar with it?" Su-Yun walked around the desk. The moment he saw the Buick GL8 on the computer screen, he recognized that it was the car that Ruan Qingshuang had bought in Hudong. Even without the license plate, Su-Yun was sure that this car was not theirs, not to mention that there was a license plate to prove it. When they were in Hudong, this car served as the transportation for Guogua. Guogua and Cho Yun's trip to Swang were also driven by Cho Yun. Buzz. Su-Yun's mind suddenly went blank. Why would Chin-Wei show him this car? Why? Something must have happened. This is a case that I just received from the Swang police. I felt that this car looked familiar when I saw it. Later, through the traffic police systems investigation, it was confirmed that this car was bought by Ruan Qingshuang in Hudong and registered her car information. Some time ago, the car was transferred to you and changed to the license plate number of Qingdao. Is that right? Chin-Wei said. Su-Yun couldn't care less about these stupid questions. He had already recognized that the car was their car. Chief Chen, what the hell is going on? Cho Yun drove Guogua to Swang. Where are they now? What happened? What do you need me to do? I didn't ask you to come here to worry. Su-Yun, calm down first. Otherwise, it will be difficult for me to explain this matter to you. Chin-Wei said. You can only be sure that you can provide enough help in this matter if you can ensure that your thoughts are clear. Su-Yun could not calm down now. Chin-Wei did not know where Cho Yun and Guogua had gone. They had gone to get Paboyu. If something happened, it would be troublesome. Okay, I'll calm down. Tell me what happened. Su-Yun suppressed his excitement. He had to understand Chin-Wei. Chin-Wei was doing this for his own good. Chin-Wei had already given him enough face by notifying him in the first place. Seeing that Su-Yun was still in a good mood, Chin-Wei conveyed the news from the Suzhou police to Su-Yun, so that Su-Yun could understand the whole process more clearly. In the cemetery, there were bloodstains in front of Feng Minggua's tombstone. Then, the bloodstains extended to the car and disappeared. However, there were no clues about the car. As for where the people in the car went, there was no clue. The only thing they knew at the scene was that Feng Minggua's grave had been damaged. In front of his grave, there were some fierce confrontations. In other words, there were people fighting in front of Feng Minggua's grave. According to the situation at the scene, both sides of the confrontation were not simple people. The traces left behind were very exaggerated. Also, there was one thing that made people feel puzzled. The urn in Feng Minggua's grave was empty. In the end, Su-Yun understood what had happened better than Chin-Wei. Feng Qiansui's tombstone was empty. His ashes were not buried there. What was buried there was Paboyu. Now that the urn was empty, it meant that Paboyu had been taken away. Only Cho Yun and Guogwa knew about this, so they could only be the ones who took the jade. However, it was obvious that after they took the Paboyu they were robbed. Then all of this happened. Su-yin quickly dialed Cho Yun's phone. Soon the call was picked up. Someone said, "Hello." Then there was a tentative silence. "I know. You're the police of Suong. You don't have to track my phone signal. I'll rush to the scene immediately." Su-yin quickly made a judgment and said to the other party, "Protect the scene. Do you understand?" With that, Su-yin hung up. Chun-wei understood what Su-yin wanted to do first. "I'll go with you. The Suong police have already contacted us. I'll go and say something. You'll get more help." "Chief Chun, sorry for the trouble. But I won't go with you. I still have to go back to deal with some matters. If you want to go too, then you should go as soon as possible. After I'm done with my matters, I'll rush to Suong immediately." "Su-yin, I really have to trouble you to say a few more words for the Suong police. Don't be so polite with me. Time waits for no one." Chun-wei said go. Su-yin left the police station and went straight to the hospital. Other than him and Ruan Qingxuang, only Wen Xiao knew that Guogwa and Cho Yun had gone to get the Paboyu. Su-yin dared to say that if this matter had nothing to do with Wen Xiao, he dared to cut off his head and give it to Wen Xiao. He couldn't care less. He just wanted to get some clues from Wen Xiao as soon as possible. Wen Xiao, who knew nothing, saw Su-yin suddenly come to the hospital. Before he could say anything, he was pulled up from the hospital bed by Su-yin. This unexpected scene really left Wen Xiao at a loss for what to do. "Wen Xiao, what did you do behind my back?" Su-yun's expression was ferocious. It was as if he wanted to eat Wen Xiao alive. Wen Xiao looked at Su-yin blankly. He didn't know what he was talking about. Su-yun's hands trembled. "Other than you, no one else knows about the Paboyu. Why did Guogwa and Cho Yun encounter an accident when they went to get the Paboyu? Wen Xiao, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation today, I'll definitely kill you. I'll personally end you." At this moment, Su-yin was completely enraged. Chapter 1777. Wen Xiao had no idea what Su-yin was talking about. He was confused. Ever since he had entered the hospital, he had never stepped out of the ward. How could he have done anything else? "Boss, if you want me to die now, I won't even frown, but I'll die innocent," Wen Xiao said. "If I, Wen Xiao, did anything to let you Yanlong Su-yin down, I'll die a horrible death and never be reincarnated. I'll be reincarnated as a beast for all eternity. If you suspect me, just do it. There's nothing to be suspicious about when I'm dead." Su-yin was stunned. Wen Xiao was expressionless and calm. He didn't seem guilty at all. He really didn't care about his own life and death. Could it be that Wen Xiao had nothing to do with this matter? Then, who exactly was related to this matter? No. The problem must be in this ward. When Su-yin was outside, he had only mentioned Guogwa and Cho Yun's trip to Suong in Wen Zhao's ward. The first time Mo Wen Tian mentioned Poboyu, and the Zixahoya people was also in this ward. There was only Wen Xiao in this ward, but the matter seemed to have nothing to do with Wen Xiao. Then there was only one possibility. The ward was being monitored or bugged. There was only one possibility. Su-yin instantly felt a bone-piercing chill down his spine. Could it be that everything had happened under someone else's nose? At this moment, Su-yin also connected the dots. Mo Wen Tian said that Wen Zhao's sedative injection had been tampered with, but Wen Xiao didn't know anything about it. If he connected all the dots, what did it mean? It meant that someone had entered Wen Zhao's ward that day. It meant that someone had tampered with the ward that day. Su-yin suddenly stood up and looked around the ward in every possible blind spot. However, everything looked so normal. There were no signs of tampering at all. However, Su-yin was still certain that there was a problem. He searched for any possible spots in the ward. In the end, Su-yun's gaze fell on a transparent membrane at the side of the nursing bed in the ward. For a moment, Su-yin felt a stabbing pain in his head. Why was he so careless? Why was he so careless? Su-yin tore off the transparent film and walked to the window to examine the transparent film under the sunlight. Then he could vaguely see the dense lines inside the film. This was a high-tech eavesdropping device. This kind of transparent tape-style listening device could wirelessly monitor what was happening within a range of 500 meters. Soo-yin took a deep breath. It seemed that someone was really behind this. But who was this person? Soo-yin had no clue at all. Yes, there were still clues. 500 meters. Within 500 meters there seemed to be only one chain hotel. If someone wanted to eavesdrop on them, they would definitely look for such a place. Soo-yin quickly sorted out the situation. He looked at the confused Wen Xiao and believed that he had absolutely nothing to do with this matter. Wen Xiao also looked at the high-tech eavesdropping device in disbelief. Boss, I really don't have any recollection of this. Could it be that someone really came to my room and pulled out the silver needle that Imo Wen Tian stuck behind my ear? Definitely. Soo-yin held the transparent tape-style eavesdropping device in his hand and said, Otherwise, why would this thing appear under your bed? But why don't I have any recollection of this? Didn't Imo Wen Tian say that as long as someone touched the silver needle behind my ear, I would wake up? Wen Zhao's eyes widened. He really couldn't remember what had happened. It seemed that Vulture's method of making him forget was very effective. Soo-yin wasn't surprised that Wen Xiao had forgotten everything that had happened in front of him. Since the other party even has such a thing, he must have prepared something to make you forget something. Otherwise, why would he dare to stick this eavesdropping device under your bed so boldly? Wen Xiao patted his head with all his might, but he still couldn't recall what had happened. He really had completely forgotten what had happened that night. It was as if he had been in a coma all along. Soo-yin was very clear that Wen Xiao couldn't provide him with any clues, because he must have been tampered with by someone, and had completely forgotten everything. But there was definitely someone who could provide clues. It was the two police officers who were on the night shift that night. After having a rough idea of Duan Rui, Soo-yin quickly called Chen Wei and asked him to find the two police officers from that day before he left Qingdao for Suang. Chen Wei was a smart person. He could roughly guess why Soo-yin wanted to find the two of them. Obviously, it was because of what had happened that night. It was very likely that it was related to what had happened in Suang a few hundred kilometers away. Since the matter was so important, Chen Wei naturally didn't dare to let his guard down. He immediately informed the two of them and asked them to report to him as soon as possible. He would personally bring them to see Soo-yin. When Soo-yin saw that Chen Wei had come along, he didn't say much. He only asked, Commissioner Chen, I want to know something, but because time is tight, I have to go a little overboard. Chen Wei nodded in agreement. Then Soo-yin made his move. He simply grabbed the two police officers with his bare hands. Within a few seconds he had taken them down. They were both anti-joint control. As long as Soo-yin used a little strength, he could break their arms and legs and cripple them directly. Do the two of you have any recollection of seeing anyone that night? Soo-yin. I'll only ask this once. If you say no, I won't be merciful. Even if Commissioner Chen is here, he can't help you. I can tell you clearly that even if I cripple the two of you here today, you can't do anything to me. Do you understand? I don't have time. Don't waste your saliva. The two police officers looked at Chen Wei in surprise. They thought that Chen Wei would speak up for them, but they didn't expect Chen Wei to stare at them and say, That day, I felt that the two of you were a little hesitant. Let me tell you, this matter is very important. If you're hiding anything and I find out, you can get out of the police force forever. The police force doesn't want shame like you. Commissioner Chen. I'll talk. The taller police officer spoke first. But I really only have a vague consciousness. There's no way to be sure. That night, I really felt like I was in a dream. Soo-yin believed that the other party was definitely not a simple master. The two young police officers really couldn't be his opponent. Therefore, he was telling the truth when he said that he encountered something like a dream. The shorter police officer also nodded and said, Commissioner Chen, we really don't dare to lie. But that night, it really was like a dream. I only vaguely remember that a person appeared in the middle of the night. Yes, he was wearing a black hoodie. We wanted to ask him what he did. But he didn't listen. The taller police officer was very surprised. His colleague's memory was the same as the vague memory. And anyway, later he seemed to have walked over, and then, I don't remember anything, the shorter police officer said. He was also very surprised. Then we were woken up by you. I really don't know if it was real or a dream. Su-yin let go of the two. Chen-wei also looked at Su-yin with a blank face. What they said. Isn't it too unreliable? No, it's all true. Su-yin nodded. Think carefully about the person's appearance and tell me. I don't have any impression of what he looks like at all. I only remember that he was wearing a hoodie and covered his face, the two said in unison. Su-yin looked at Chen-wei. Commissioner Chen, I need to trouble you with something. Follow me to the chain hotel on the east side of the hospital. Ask them to cooperate with the official business and show us the hotel's surveillance video from a few days ago. Chen-wei nodded. He knew that Su-yin already had a clue about this matter. Chapter 1778. With Chen-wei's presence, the manager of the hotel chain was very cooperative. He also hoped that the matter would be resolved as soon as possible. Otherwise, if too many guests saw the police in their hotel, it would definitely affect their business. After all, the police would only appear in the hotel for no other reason than to investigate whether there was a murder or arson in the hotel, or whether the hotel was suspected of prostitution, gambling, drugs, and so on. No matter what the investigation was, as long as they were involved in these things, it would definitely not be good. It would definitely have a bad impact on the hotel's reputation. Therefore, the hotel manager would definitely cooperate fully and send these uniformed people away as soon as possible. Even if they were to watch a month's worth of footage, they would definitely be obedient, let alone a few days' worth of footage. Chen-wei and Su-yin entered the surveillance room. The hotel manager politely prepared tea for them, and even brought dried fruits and snacks. However, Su-yin and the rest were not in the mood. This was not a routine official inspection. The person they were investigating now was definitely not an ordinary person. According to the preliminary judgment of the time, they began to check the surveillance footage. Sure enough, the surveillance footage here was the same as the one in the hospital. There would always be a snowflake at certain times, and the time when the snowflake appeared was also the time when Su-yin thought that their target should appear. Obviously, this person carried that kind of surveillance jammer with him at all times, so that all the surveillance equipment could not monitor his whereabouts. This kind of person was really not simple. Perhaps only the most wanted criminals in the world would have such careful protection. What's this situation? Chen-wei pointed at the snowflake screen and said, Shouldn't your hotel's surveillance equipment be updated? How can you guarantee the safety of your hotel like this? Change all of them. Director Chen, you don't know. There is no problem with our surveillance at all. It's just that during those few days, something like this happened occasionally. I immediately asked someone to check it, and there is no problem at all. The hotel manager said, If you don't believe me, you can look at the current surveillance footage. There is absolutely no such situation, I guarantee. Su-yin said, You need to register your identity when you check in, right? That is, on the day when there was a problem with the surveillance footage, can you show me the identity registration of everyone who checked in? This is not a problem. The hotel manager said, We are very strict about this. We absolutely eliminate any possible safety hazards. We will not give the criminals any chance to take advantage of us. You're all just saying nice things. Chen-wei didn't think much of it. Most of the time, there are all kinds of methods to deal with things. Are there any people who don't show their ID cards and check in at your hotel? You better tell me the truth. This matter is of great importance. If any serious adverse consequences are caused because of your hotel, don't even think about keeping your job. You'll be charged with the crime of covering up. It wouldn't be too much even if you were sent to jail. Director Chen, I really don't dare to do this. The hotel manager said, When it comes to security, I don't dare to slack off. But a few days ago, there really was an incident. I have a foreign friend who is staying here for a long period of time. He lost his entry document and is trying to get a new one. Other than him, there are no other problems. Su-yin suddenly asked in a cold voice, Do you like wearing a hooded top? The hotel manager was stunned. He nodded blankly. Yes. Yes. When did he check out? Su-yin continued asking. He hasn't checked out yet. He's staying here for a long period of time. That's why we gave him a month's worth of money. We were thinking of waiting for him to get a new document before registering him. As for the room, we'll let him stay here for the time being. The hotel manager said, Director Chun, we're doing business here. Those who stay here for a long period of time are also big clients. So, we made an exception. This isn't considered breaking the rules, right? Chin-wei took a deep breath. Now bring us to the room immediately. No matter what, there has to be an explanation for what happened today. Su-yin knew that although the room wasn't checked out, there was definitely no one in it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a problem in Swang. However, he had the same idea as Chin-wei. Even if they couldn't catch the person in the room, they could still find some useful clues. As long as there were clues, it would be helpful in solving the problem. The hotel manager was also afraid of getting himself into trouble. He could only quickly bring Chun-wei and Su-yin to the room booked by the foreign man. He found the room card and opened the door. Before he even entered, the stench of a corpse came out of the room. Su-yin and Chun-wei's expressions changed drastically. Obviously, they knew what the smell was. The hotel manager was also a little disgusted. What? What is this smell? It's so disgusting. If I knew, I wouldn't have let this person stay here. He's too cowardly. I'm speechless. If it's just cowardly, you should be thanking Buddha. Chin-wei said coldly. Inform all your staff not to leave. All the guests staying here are not allowed to leave without permission. Someone died here. I need to conduct a comprehensive investigation. Someone died? The hotel manager's face could no longer squeeze out a smile. He was in a trance for a while before he made a surprised expression. How is it possible? Our hotel can't. At this moment, Su-yin had already walked into the room. Without spoiling the scene, she lifted the corner of the blanket on the bed. Under the blanket was a red-haired man who had been dead for a long time. His entire body emitted a foul stench, and the smell of blood under the blanket was even stronger. The hotel manager at the door of the guest room also saw the person on the bed in the room. He almost vomited on the spot. Someone really died. He didn't have so much time to think about other things now. He wasn't even sure if he could continue to stay here in the future. Do as I say. Everyone in your hotel is a suspect. Chun-wei said. No one can leave. The hotel manager nodded blankly. He knew that he couldn't get away from this matter. Even if he wanted to resign, he had to wait until this matter was over before he could leave. No matter what, he still hoped that the police could catch the culprit as soon as possible. This isn't the person who booked the room, right? Su-yin came out and said to the hotel manager. Go in and confirm it. I need your answer. The hotel manager waved his hand repeatedly, indicating that he didn't need to go in and check. No, definitely not. The man in the hoodie has black hair, not red hair. I can still be sure of this. This person didn't book the room. That means the person who booked the room is the murderer. Su-yin was sure that the murderer had left. It seemed that these two people had made a move because of Paboyu's secret. Humph. It seemed that this huge temptation could make people fall out in an instant. In this world, things like benefits were really too terrifying. Su-yin could no longer sit still. The other party was too cruel. He was worried about the situation in Swang. Chief Chen, I'll leave this matter to you. I have to leave for Swang immediately. Then I'll write you a letter. You can bring it to the Swang police. I'll ask them to cooperate with your work as much as possible. Chun-wei also realized the importance of this matter, but he couldn't leave until the matter here was settled. He could only let Su-yin go first. Su-yin didn't reject Chun-wei's kindness. After bringing a letter written by Chun-wei, Su-yin went straight to Swang without stopping. Chapter 1779. After Su-yin left, Chun-wei immediately ordered his men to take control of the entire hotel. His position was different from Su-yin's. Su-yin could only consider that person, but Chun-wei had to consider more comprehensively. He had to consider whether there was an accomplice, whether there was a spy, and whether there was anything suspicious about the other people in the hotel. As for these suspicions, he needed evidence to eliminate them. He could not be like Su-yin and go straight to Swang based on reasoning and judgment. This was because he was a police officer. He paid more attention to evidence than reasoning and judgment. The results that did not pay attention to evidence were not persuasive and could not stand. Su-yin obviously understood Chen Wei's position, so he rushed to Swang in advance. He didn't have that much time to wait, although he knew that Chen Wei needed his help now. After all, the other party wasn't an ordinary murderer, but an expert in the underground world. Su-yin had also considered this point. He wouldn't just watch Chen Wei suffer. An expert in the underground world was very cautious. He basically wouldn't leave any clues. Therefore, Su-yin called Lin Gu on the way to Swang and told him that he had left. Then he asked him to go to the hotel and cooperate with Chen Wei's work. He wanted to get as many clues as possible and find out the identity of the suspect. This was also helping him. Lin Gu nodded and agreed. He didn't stubbornly insist on going to Swang with Su-yin. Finding out the identity of the other party was also important to Su-yin. As long as he knew who the other party was, Su-yin wouldn't have to search blindly. At least, he could get some possible clues based on the other party's habits. This was very important to Su-yin. Su-yin hung up the phone and went straight to Swang. He knew that the time given to him was getting less and less. He didn't just have to catch up with time. The sooner he arrived in Swang, the safer Guoguo would be. Su-yin didn't know about the situation in Swang. He really didn't have that much patience. After Lin Gu hung up the phone, he rushed to the hotel immediately. When Lin Gu arrived at the hotel, the forensic doctor was already there to examine the corpse. The entire hotel was sealed off by the police. After Lin Gu explained his identity, someone went to inform Chen Wei, and he was allowed to enter. Lin Gu quickly arrived at the crime scene. Chen Wei was talking to the most famous case-solving king in the Key Case Investigation Unit. After seeing Lin Gu, Chen Wei greeted him and waved his hand, indicating that he should come in and take a look at the crime scene to see if he could get any inspiration. However, Lin Gu was not a detective after all. He only came to the scene to see the corpse. He needed to find clues on the corpse. As for the rest, he and Su-yin came to the same conclusion. Knowing that the murderer was no longer in this place, he didn't need to be as rigid as the police. This was also the reason why Su-yin asked him to help Chen Wei. Chief Chen, such a young man, can solve a case? The case-solving king in the Key Case Investigation Unit saw Lin Gu and was a little surprised. He didn't know who this kid was. Chen Wei waved his hand, indicating that he shouldn't say anything. He wanted to let Lin Gu take a look first and see if he could get any inspiration. The rest could be discussed later. Lin Gu saw the red hair of the corpse and frowned slightly. Then, with the help of the forensic doctor, he turned the corpse over. The corpse's back was pierced through, and it looked extremely terrifying. Even the forensic doctor, who had been at the scene of a murder for a long time, couldn't help but frown. He had never seen such a cruel murderer. At this time, Lin Gu found a special tattoo on the back of the corpse. This tattoo was a line of words in Malay Polynesian, which meant that it was an Austronesian language in Southeast Asia. Everyone knew that there were 11 countries in Southeast Asia. Malaysia, Indonesia, and Philippines were all Austronesian countries. As for Cambodia and parts of Vietnam, they belonged to the South Asian language family. Of course, there were also Sino-Tibetan languages, Burmese, Thai, and Laos. Obviously, the man with the Austronesian tattoo on his back was from Southeast Asia, and he had red hair. This made Lin Gu quickly think of the endless mercenary groups in Southeast Asia. Many of these mercenary groups liked to have their names tattooed on the back of their waists. It was said that it was better than engraving their names on a steel plate. Many times, war would blow up people's name tags. Tattooing one's name on the back of their waists, even if their heads were blown up, could let their loved ones know that it was them. Therefore, tattooing one's name on the back was very popular in the mercenary circle in Southeast Asia. Lin Gu quickly recorded the tattoo on the back of the man, then quickly searched through his phone. Soon he found the meaning of this line of words. Translated, it was, Flying Eagle Bahavida. Obviously, Bahavidar was his name, and the Soaring Eagle was the nickname given to him by others in the mercenary group. To be able to have his name and title tattooed together, he was obviously someone with a certain status in the mercenary group. Suddenly, Lin Ge saw his red hair again, and he remembered a mercenary group that was very famous in Southeast Asia and the Middle East. And in this mercenary group, there was a person known as the Red Eagle, because of his red hair and the battle prowess of an eagle. Could it be that this person was the Red Eagle? Hey young man, if you've seen enough, don't disturb us from solving the case. The crime king of the Key Case Investigation Unit looked at Lin Ge impatiently. Lin Ge didn't even look at him, and only said to Chen Wei, "Chief Chen, I'm afraid that this is not something the police can handle. As for the other party's situation, I already have a rough idea. You won't find anything even if you continue to investigate. The murderer is no longer here, and even if he is, the police don't have enough power to deal with him." Chen Wei frowned. It seemed that this matter was indeed quite troublesome. Can you be more careful with your words? The police don't have the power to deal with a criminal suspect? There won't be any results even if we continue to investigate? Who do you think you are? The crime king was very dissatisfied with Lin Ge's words. Lin Ge looked back at him, but still ignored him. He really didn't want to argue with him. Don't talk so much. Be humble. Chen Wei glared at him, and only then did the crime king stop. However, the crime king was still holding a breath in his heart. He was definitely not convinced. Chief Chen, I really have to solve this case. The crime king could only use his own way to defend his reputation. For his title, he absolutely couldn't give it up easily. Lin Ge didn't care whether he wanted to solve the case or not. He needed to talk to Wen Xiao now. Chief Chen, I can only give you this advice. This matter has absolutely nothing to do with the ordinary people in the hotel. Doing unnecessary investigations is just a waste of your time. I'll go first. Chen Wei nodded and signaled Lin Ge to do his own thing. The crime king was full of anger, but when he saw that Chief Chen valued this young man's words, he didn't dare to say anything more. After Lin Ge left, he muttered a few words of complaint. You can't judge a book by its cover. Chen Wei suddenly said to the crime king, sometimes, there are some things that we really can't solve. Don't underestimate the young people nowadays. What kind of status they have, what kind of future they have. You and I can't predict it. The crime king was stunned. He didn't understand what Chen Wei meant. This case, I know that you must definitely pursue it to the end. I can only say that you do your best. Don't feel burdened. Chen Wei said, if you need my support, I will definitely support you. But the result is no longer important. The crime king opened his mouth in surprise. It seemed that Chief Chen meant that he couldn't solve this case at all. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.